If you like the story, you can support the author on Patreon. Link is in the description.
Chapter 26, I Want Your Slaves. Gumi, the pre-evolution of Gudra, is a representative pseudo-legendary of the Kalos region. Although Gudra is not as famous as some of its pseudo-legendary peers, it still can't change the fact that Gudra is a pseudo-legendary Pokémon with 600 stats. The most surprising thing was that it was Hisuian. Its following evolutions, Sliggoo and Gudra, have this corresponding type, which is Dragon/Steel type. You know the primary nemesis of all dragons is the Fairy type, followed by the Ice type. While Ice-type Pokémon can deal super effective damage to Dragon type can also deal normal damage to Ice type, which is enough for dragons to counterattack. However, dragons can't actually deal damage to Fairy type. It's not just resistance but no damage, and Fairy can even deal super effective damage to Dragon type. But now, with the additional Steel type for dragons, not only can Gudra receive normal damage from Fairy type and Ice type but also deal super effective damage to them using Steel moves. Additionally, although Fire type moves revert from being resistant to dealing normal damage to dragons, Gudra still gets the Steel buff, which has much resistance to most types, except for fighting and ground, which deal super effective damage to them, and some few types that can deal normal damage. And now he saw many Gumi being trained by someone here using water gun and bubbles to create a beautiful fountain. Were pre-pseudo-legendary Pokémon actually being used for a show? If Pokémon fans knew this, they might kick this guy and steal these 5. Actually, he felt an urge to kick this guy, but he restrained and forced himself to calm down. And one thing he was doubting, were pseudo-legendary Pokémon as common as cabbages now? In the whole 8 months since he appeared in this world, except for Axew, he hadn't seen any other Pokémon with Dragon type. He had even rarely seen non-Dragon type Pokémon belonging to the Dragon Egg group, maybe Swablu, which becomes a dragon when evolved, but aside from it, he had only seen Akans, Arbok, Seadra, Horsa, Magikarp, and Gyarados. And now he had Dratini and even an unconscious Dragonite in his Pokeball, which he got 6 days ago. And surprisingly, he saw another pre-pseudo-legendary, Gumi. And it's actually Hisuian. This was even rarer to see than normal dragon types. Where was the dignity and rarity of being pseudo-legendary? He hoped he wouldn't later see a large pack of legendary Pokémon doing circus acts like this. Well, if the hypothesis that Caterpie could evolve into Rayquaza was true, then he had seen a lot. Or maybe it was because pseudo-legendary Pokémon took too long to evolve, so humans could defeat them, as the baby stage and middle stage of pseudo-legendary Pokémon weren't actually that strong compared to the final form? But even if that's the case, it's still shocking. Floyd shook his head. The most important thing for now was how to acquire these 5. He hurriedly approached the man, suppressing his emotion, while Axew quickly followed behind him. He entered the tent and said, "Mr." Hearing the voice behind, the man took a look and seemed a bit surprised by Floyd's Austronesian features, a foreigner. Then he started questioning him. Floyd couldn't understand Chinese, so he looked to Axew at his side. Axew nodded and explained to him what the man said. Pokémon have the ability to understand what humans say, no matter what language it is, and since Floyd had dragon power, he could understand what they were saying, but only exclusively to dragons, Dragon Egg group, and other Pokémon associated with dragons. And, what I mean for the last is a non-Dragon Egg group but can learn dragon move. Who are you? The man asked. I'm Floyd from the country Maharlika in the southeast, can you understand? Floyd replied and asked him back. I can understand, a bit, but I can't speak. But what are you doing here? I'm busy, I can't entertain you. The man felt hesitant at first and started to speak non-fluent English, then he reverted to speaking his native language, as if he didn't care whether Floyd understood or not. I can understand you, and there's a business transaction I want to discuss with you. Floyd felt glad that he could understand him, so there would be no conflict and misunderstanding in communicating with each other. You can understand me. The man was surprised and spoke in his native language to test him. Floyd looked at Axu, and the latter started to translate for him. Then Floyd nodded and said, "Yes, I can understand you." The man looked at the small beastly creature with an iron ring on its neck and thought, "Can this man understand beasts?" Then that thought diminished when he saw a blue fruit in Floyd's hand. His mouth opened wide, his eyes stretched in shock. Is this? How could the man not know? 6 months ago, a wealthy middle-aged man with an incurable illness accidentally ate this berry from the market. A few weeks later, he was surprised to find his body steadily improving. After a medical checkup, he found that although the illness was still there, it had lessened. That's when he started to suspect something. He remembered eating that delicious berry before. To confirm his suspicion, he searched for the same variety of fruit, but it was actually rare, he couldn't find one. He also found some unique berries, but most of them had no effect. Then he took a yellow-red colored berry and ate it. A few days later, he checked again, his illness was gone. At that time, many people were suspicious of him and saw him gathering a few berries. Later, they found out that there was a berry that could cure illnesses. People went crazy and even started gathering around the middle-aged man's house. Feeling pressured by the people around, he confessed that it was true. Then it started to spread throughout the whole city of Xinchija, and even their self-proclaimed officials took this matter seriously. They found out that this fruit was abundant in a forest where many beasts hovered around. So, people here started to approach the forest, but it resulted in many casualties because, although they were a self-proclaimed country, their weapons weren't comparable to those in the official city, Taipei. Even with grenade launchers and tanks, they couldn't subdue all the beasts. To fight them, you would need a jet, rocket launcher, nuclear weapons, or any strong destructive weapons to contend with them. They couldn't manufacture something like that, and even if they managed to have one, it wasn't enough to fight the beasts. So, they started to get wary about it. The berry's price inflated to 1 million TWD but soon dropped to 900,000, to 700,000, then down to 500,000 and even below. Because they learned that they could plant this seed in their territory, and although it was risky to venture outside, hunters still took the risk. Despite the casualties, the reward was sufficient, and this berry was not actually rare in the forest, but it was not easy to obtain under the watchful eyes of the beasts. The greed in the man started to show as he looked at the fruit held by the foreigner. "This fruit, do you want to make a transaction? Then, what do you want in exchange?" The man suppressed his inner thoughts and asked what this foreigner needed in exchange. "I want your slaves behind you, all of them." Floyd pointed at the 5 gummis. Chapter 27, Transaction completed. "Do you want my slaves?" The man turned his back to the 5 creatures, then looked back at Floyd with confusion. The 5 gummis stopped what they were doing and became frightened as they looked towards Floyd. Was this guy trying to take them away? Although their day-to-day lives were extremely harsh, they were much better compared to what they had experienced before. And now someone wants to take them away? "Goo, Gumi!" The oldest one cried out in fear with pleading in his eyes. "You! Shut up! Do your own thing there, don't bother me!" The man's eyes were already red as he was looking greedily at the berry and wanted to take it, and now there was an idiot foreigner who wanted to take his slaves with this berry. But he became wary because this might be fake, and soon he asked Floyd, "Would you mind if I perform a test?" "What test?" Floyd frowned and asked what he meant. "Wait, I'm going to find something." The man hurriedly went to the cabinet and dug through his belongings as if he were searching for something. Floyd became wary, thinking it might be a gun or weapon. "Here it is." The man took out a case and opened it, revealing a needle. Floyd was still wary as he focused his attention on what the man was holding. No way, he cared about his life. Previously, he almost died, and now, looking at the needle, he recalled a martial art he watched in his previous life where something like this was used to assassinate someone. what are you doing? I need to test it using this. The man took one needle from the case, which made Floyd alert. For what? Floyd asked, still feeling alert, and even beckoned Axu to be alert. I need to test if the berry you brought is real, and since we can't slice it, I'm using a needle to extract some juice and then try it on the arm. If the bleeding stops and heals, then your berry is real. Seeing Floyd become wary, the man tried to explain. After hearing the explanation from the man, Floyd became embarrassed. It seems he overthought something. I see, then you can try it. Floyd permitted, but he was still wary of him. The man started to inject the needle. After a few seconds, he took it out, and Floyd could see the fluid on the needle. The man then injected it into his arm. Floyd could see the blood coming out but soon disappear. The man opened his eyes with joy and greed. He knew this berry was real. He's going to be rich. He's going to be rich, he thought. But first, he needed the consent of this foreigner. At first, he really thought about how to kill this guy, but seeing that he only needed to buy his slaves, he rejected that idea. He had only bought his slaves from the commercial area for 50,000 TWD. No one even wanted these slimy creatures because they felt disgusting, and he had no money to buy an expensive beast for his circus show, so he had no choice but to get them. Seeing that they were good at using water magic, which might impress people, he trained them hard to earn money. And now someone will spend 10x the money. This was a great profit. Do you really want to buy my slaves? The man confirmed again whether what this foreigner had said before was real. Yes. He was really going to buy them. Do you know how much your berry is worth? The man asked. Isn't it in demand in your city? This berry should cost 150,000, right? I think it's enough. Floyd started acting as if he didn't know the price but was still pretending he knew the price. He doesn't know, oh my god, I'm going to be rich. The man was very happy deep inside. Ahem, cough, young man, do you know how much my slaves are worth? It's 60,000 TWD each, with a total of 300,000 TWD, and it took me half a year to train them. I spent a lot of money investing in them, so do you think one berry is enough? You should add 2 more berries. Well, since I'm generous, I'll give them to you with a discount. 2 berries, and you can have them. The man still hoped to increase the price, maybe at least double the price if Floyd had another berry. But he didn't dare press too much, afraid that Floyd would back down. If he doesn't have more, it's okay to trade with 1 berry. That's too expensive. Floyd widened his eyes, acting as if he was surprised. The man became afraid. Would Floyd back down since he couldn't afford it? Well, then. If you don't have another, 1 is okay. The man hesitated, thinking that 1 was enough. Don't be greedy anymore, but he didn't continue what he was saying when. Well, I have 1 last one here, this might be my last one. You said you can trade them for 2, am I right? Floyd took out another one. He actually has. He actually has. This guy? This guy is a fool. Ha 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 ha. The man acted normal, but in his mind, he was already jumping happily and celebrating. He didn't even think of killing Floyd this time. This poor guy has been scammed by me, he thought. He checked the berry first with a needle, and it was true, another genuine one. Then he didn't wait anymore and started the transaction quickly, afraid that Floyd would back down. The method of transaction was easy. Floyd looked at the man putting his thumb on the iron ring on their bodies. And, since Gumi has no neck, the iron ring was on their body, like a belt. Hurry up, put your thumb on the other place, the man hurriedly shouted to him. Floyd was unfamiliar with this technology and just followed what he said and put his thumb on the other part of the iron ring. He saw that the gumi they were holding was already desperate, his eyes starting to cloud, and tears coming out. Gumi! Gumi! he looked pleadingly at the man. "Shut up, from now on, he is your owner," the man scolded him indifferently. Gumi was heartbroken. Although the man didn't treat them well, it was much better compared to the previous one, and having stayed here for half a year, he had already gotten used to it. He felt a bit of reluctance. He felt his world was gone now and felt lifeless. Then suddenly, he felt energy and sensed something familiar. He looked at the source of the energy and was surprised. It was the man who wanted to buy them. Floyd released a little energy from his fingertips and touched the gumi. And since he was on the other side and it was in a blind spot, the man didn't see it. Ting! The ring sounded, and it meant the owner had changed. Floyd was surprised by this because his country didn't have technology like this. It was like an upgraded version of the iron ring. The people here were more advanced. "Let's move on to the next one," the man, already in a hurry, grabbed another gumi. A few minutes later, the transaction was finished. Floyd had already paid with 2 berries, and the man started running. "Ha ha ha ha, I actually scammed a guy, oh my god, with these 2 berries, if calculated in TWD, almost 1 million. The man shouted. 50,000 TWD for the price of slaves in exchange for 1 million TWD, ha 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 ha, that fool, ha 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 ha, what a stupid. Now he was going to the commercial area to exchange them and buy new slaves. At the back, Floyd saw him running, his mouth started to curl up and said, "What a stupid." Chapter 28, Escape. Floyd was left in the tent, along with 5 gumis. That man actually left his tent with strangers? On closer examination, nothing here seemed valuable, and Floyd didn't really care about it. He took a poke block from his backpack. It was the regular poke block made from kuo and nutpea. Floyd knew that every Pokémon had different taste preferences, so he always prepared this poke block. He handed them out one by one. The 5 gumis, still heartbroken, looked at him warily, unsure of his intentions. They inspected what he offered, noting its appetizing aroma, then looked back at Floyd. "Gumi." The leader gumi stepped forward hesitantly and inquired nervously. "This is food, it's for you," Floyd reassured with a smile. Seeing his genuine smile, the leader gumi felt that this stranger might not be so scary. Gathering his courage, he took a bite. It was delicious. How long had it been since he tasted something so delightful? Actually, he had never tasted anything this good since he was born. He quickly consumed the rest and exclaimed, "Gumi! Delicious! Goo! Goo! Gumi!" He urged his brother and sisters to try their shares. The other gumis grew curious and immediately tasted the treats. "Gumi! Goo! Gumi! Gumi! Goo!" Witnessing their reactions, Floyd couldn't help but smile. He always felt joy seeing a Pokémon's expression when enjoying the food he prepared. He channeled his energy to them, making them feel at ease. When was the last time they felt this comfortable? In just a few minutes, the gumis' previous desolate expressions transformed into hopeful ones directed at Floyd. "Do you like it?" Floyd asked with a smile. "Goo! Gumi! Goo! Gumi! Gum! Gumi! If you follow me, you can eat this every day," Floyd promised. "Goo! Gumi! Of course! Do you think I'm joking? Look at how much I have," Floyd said, taking out more food from his backpack to show them. "Goo! Gumi!" Their eyes sparkled, entranced by the abundance of delicious food with Floyd. "So, what's your decision? Want to follow me?" Floyd inquired. "Gumi! Gumi! 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 Gumi!" With their agreement, a smile formed on Floyd's lips. He recalled a saying, "To win someone's heart, start with food." The same seemed true for Pokémon. He gently patted each of their heads, stood up, and declared, "Come and follow me." A few minutes later, he returned back to Kanraku. Behind Floyd were the 5 gummies, 4 Petalil, Happiny, Mime Jr., Munchlax, Multank, Chespin, and Punchame. Floyd uses the 3 berries that Kanraku gave to him with it. In the first tent he visited, he particularly captivated by the Happiny, a rare Pokémon usually associated with Nurse Joy in animations. Perhaps it would be good to acquire it and let Chansey care for it. Since Floyd was already at the tent, he felt compelled to purchase others as well. Wanting to choose a rare one for Kanraku, he opted for Mime Jr. During his time there, he noticed the tent owner scolding a thin, blue Pokémon. If Floyd weren't familiar with the appearances of Snorlax and Munchlax, he wouldn't have recognized this one, especially since the Munchlax in question was exceptionally thin and seemed to have not eaten. When the tent owner learned that Floyd intended to buy Chansey, Mime Jr., and Munchlax for just 1 berry, he agreed at once, particularly eager to part with the listless Munchlax that seemed unwilling to work and seemingly wished to die. Then the second tent he goes to is much bigger, and to his surprise, he actually sees a Multank here, and not only Multank but there's also a Chespin here. Surprisingly, here in this city he saw 2 starters, one is Chikorita earlier, and now Chespin, 2 grass Pokémon was here. But they seems were not valued by the owner. He might not realize the real value of Multank came from Milk and Chespin, who has great potential as one of Kalos region starter. In a larger tent he visited next, he stumbled upon a Multank and a Chespin, 2 starters. He noticed that Chespin, a starter from the Kalos region, and Multank, known for its prized milk, seemed undervalued by their current handler. He also spotted a Punchame and 4 Petalil. The Petalil especially caught his interest as he theorized they might have a Hisuian variant, having observed the impressive stats of Kanraku's Gumi and Growlithe. Floyd felt Punchame, which takes on a dark type upon evolution, might expedite Kanraku's research. Without hesitation, he traded 2 berries for these Pokémon and made his way back. Upon arriving at the location where Kanraku was, Floyd noticed a large pack of beasts behind him. Although they were all baby Pokémon, the group was still considerable, more than twice the number Floyd had acquired. 4 Cherubi, 3 Mariup, 3 Rattata, 3 Zigzagoon, 3 Meowth, 2 Bidoof, 2 Guadud, 2 Oddish, 1 Cubone, 1 Wooper, 1 Magpie, 1 Wingull, 1 Metapod, 1 Seduc. Behind Bianca, there were 3 Pokémon, a Chikorita, a Talo, and a Poochyena. Yvonne had a Spinarak on his neck, which seemed to have become close to him quickly. Floyd wondered that Yvonne seemed to have just known each other and they almost already bonded. Even the 3 Pokémon Bianca bought were still wary of her. Jonathan, however, didn't seem to have bought any. "You didn't buy one?" Floyd inquired. "I bought few and gave it to the professor," Jonathan replied. "And you?" "Me? No, I didn't choose one. I don't see any bigger beasts here, and I don't like them. Even my beast, Rahorn, is much better than these," Jonathan expressed disdainfully. "Oh, Floyd-san, you also bought many here," Kanraku observed, surprised. "I spent 5 berries," Floyd announced. "What? 5 berries? Didn't I tell you not to display too many? Otherwise, we could end up in trouble." "Oh wait, it seems I bought quite a few myself," Kanraku began to scold Floyd but then caught himself, realizing he had done the same. "I paid 2 berries for these 5 beasts. I plan to breed them myself. Shouldn't we be trouble? Besides, you have more beasts than I bought. Aren't you also worried about causing a commotion?" Floyd suddenly remembered thinking he came impulsive, then recalled Kanraku's warning and saw many beasts around him. He inquired. "This? I just couldn't help myself." "But you spent 2 berries on just these 5 beasts." Kanraku was startled, suddenly sensing someone's gaze upon them. Floyd and Yvonne felt it too. Seeing their reactions, Jonathan and Bianca realized what had happened. "Let's not dwell on this now, we must leave." The individuals we traded berries with will likely come to the marketplace, drawing attention. Hurry, follow me, Kanrika whispered, urging the group to move swiftly. Minutes later, they reached a rocky area. Blast was created a shortcut here in the past. I'm not sure if it's still usable. It's a hidden path through the forest by the seashore, so we don't need to use the main entrance and can exit directly, Kanrika shared. There's the trail, Kanrika pointed towards the steep rock-filled path. With all the Pokémon we have with us, they could easily track us, Floyd warned. I once bought nearly 100 beasts and used up 35 berries. I really wanted to know who leads this city and befriend them. If they hadn't targeted me, I would have involved them in my plan. This place used to be a paradise for beasts, Kanrika reminisced with a sigh. I assumed 15 berries would keep us low-key, but I was mistaken, Kanrika admitted. It's not just about the berries. Your plan was flawed. We could have spent weeks here, using only a few berries at a time to avoid drawing attention, Yvonne pointed out. Oh, yeah, why didn't I think of that? Yvonne-san, you should be the one making the plan, Kanrika playfully lamented, hitting his forehead in realization. Floyd felt slightly embarrassed as he too had overlooked this. I thought your plan was reliable because your plan from the start is perfect. I didn't think. Yvonne said with regret. He should have reminded them earlier. Kanrika suddenly moved forward to the Pokémon and broke their rings one by one. Professor, what are you doing? Suzuki shouted. Are you crazy? Jonathan added. I'm not crazy, I will set them free now, Kanrika said, seeing Floyd immediately follow suit and release the iron rings from the Pokémon he bought. Floyd. Bianca was surprised by his action. Floyd? Even you? Jonathan couldn't fathom why he was mimicking Kanrika's seemingly irrational actions. I'm not sure about the professor's reasoning, but I believe this is the right thing to do. They deserve freedom. Floyd believed that Pokémon shouldn't be bound and deprived of their freedom. Touched by this gesture, Bianca released her Pokémon as well, reminding her of Bird Saint. Yvonne hesitated, but after seeing the longing in his Spinarak's eyes, he cautiously did the same. All the Pokémon looked at them, clearly moved. You can choose to follow us or not, the decision is yours, Kanrika told them. Magby then stepped forward, declaring, Magby. Back in the commercial area, a stir was arising. Is that the same guy from before, with Lord Blue? And now, he went to the circus tent outside Lower Town instead. I should have been the one to get those berries. That wasteful prodigal man is back, spending berries on beasts. Where did he find so many berries? Did he venture deep into the forest, or does he possess advanced technology? I heard he's brought many disciples this time. That's probably why he went unnoticed. Many hunters and townspeople began making their way to the Lower Town. Chapter 29, No Way Out. Lower Town. Many hunters continued to arrive at the previous tent, tracking the location where Kanrika's group had appeared. Where are they? The leader asked and added, trace them, they bought many beasts. It's impossible for them to escape. Here, there are a lot of footprints, they should be going that way, one of the subordinates reported. That way? Why does it feel familiar? Could it be? I know now. They are going that way again. Some veteran hunters experienced a sense of déjà vu. Where? The leader looked in the direction indicated, and his expression sank. Did you not remember last time, in the forest of Wuxian? Other veteran hunters reminded. No wonder it's so familiar. Wuxian again. That Japanese guy is daring, let's go. This time we will follow them, the leader commanded. Yeah, last time we didn't dare to go here, but this time it's different. Since they can come, we will also come, another veteran hunter said. But why do I feel it's dangerous? A newcomer looked worried. Well, you are still too young to understand, any risk comes with big benefits. That guy can spend a lot of berries, for sure, he has a lot of stocks. Once we get it, hee, the veterans smiled maliciously, greed in their eyes. Kanraku was surprised by the decision of all the Pokémon. Previously, almost half had left him when he rescued them, but today, actually, none did. He wondered if it was because they had only bought a few today. He looked at Magby with confusion. Why was this guy so enthusiastic today? Unbeknownst to him, Magby, one of the Pokémon he had rescued, had previously run away from him and immediately regretted it after getting caught again. Seeing Kanraku busy rescuing others, Magby took the opportunity to share his story. Hearing what he said, almost all Pokémon's eyes lit up. Was what he said true? Now, they felt hopeful as they looked at Kanraku. He understood why and looked at Magby with appreciation, nodding and saying, "Since you all want to go, let's go." Magby. Meowth. Cherubi Geodude Mary E Pratutta Happiny. Cham Cham. Chico Chicorit. Zigzagoon B Dufadish Metapo Munchlax Sai. Pedal Talo. Then, they carefully descended the steep trail. A few minutes later, when they all had come down, they heard sounds from the top. They should be here. Hurry up. Kanraku's face sank and he said, why did they discover it so quickly? There's a saying, fool them once, shame on them, fool them twice, shame on you. Of course, they know, otherwise, are you expecting them to make the same mistake twice? Yvonne snorted. He was regretting now this guy was just making blind plans. Where was the majestic image he had shown before? This, ha ha ha, I'm sorry, I should have known that. Kanraku became embarrassed as he patted his head. Let's go. Suzuki, is there a signal from the ship? Kanraku asked. He looked at Suzuki, who kept checking the signal on her phone. I'm still trying, but we need to be near the ship. Suzuki was already in a state of desperation. What? How near is it? Yvonne was shocked. According to the estimation, it should be 10 kilometers, Suzuki hesitated, then said. Damn! It will take an hour. Jonathan cursed. If we continue to run, we can shorten it, maybe to about 30 to 40 minutes, Yvonne had a headache. The more he saw them, the more he felt they were unreliable. They are already near, Floyd, who was sensing his surroundings, said. Seeing they had a problem, Bianca hesitated a bit, then said, Swablu, help us. Tweet. Swablu was confused at first, then remembered. Then she flew backward and activated her move, Tweet. Tailwind. Suddenly a gust of air came from them, and most of them felt they had become faster. What is this? Jonathan was surprised but felt he had become faster. Not only him, but all of them felt it. Wow! Good job, little bird. Kanraku smiled. Is this done by this bird? Amazing, Jonathan was surprised. Young lad, good job, Floyd nodded. The Pokémon also reacted, looking at Swablu with gratitude. Tweet. Hearing everyone praise her, especially her idol, she hit on Bianca's shoulder and blushed. Good job, Swablu, Bianca smiled and encouraged her. Tweet. Yvonne glanced at Swablu, and an idea suddenly sparked in his mind. He turned to observe the other birds, spotting 3 in total, Swablu, Talo, and Wing-Ul. Professor, how about letting these 3 birds fly and call those 12 turtles? We can have half call the ship and half assist us here, Yvonne suggested. Kanraku considered this, then turned his gaze towards Swablu on Bianca's shoulder, Talo on her back, and Wing-Ul running with the Pokémon. It seems feasible, but we need their opinions. What do you think? He asked them. Tweet. Talo. Wing-Ul. All of them nodded in agreement. We still need to go to the seashore, it's dangerous here in the forest, Kanraku expressed with concern. Yes, Yvonne nodded in agreement. Other Pokémon were spying on them but didn't make a move, seeing the gang of Pokémon. A creature with a star-shape and egg-shaped body observed them curiously, feeling it was quite fun, and then jumped to a running Miltank. The latter was surprised and caught her. "Kuriai Chalky," she smiled joyfully. A few minutes later, they appeared at the seashore, and Swablu, Talo, and Wing-Ul took to the sky. Meanwhile, the hunters were facing trouble in the forest as some beasts began attacking them. 2 hunters met their end, many were injured, and the bruised-faced leader reported they would be late and needed reinforcements to continue. They had underestimated the strength of the beasts. In the city of Xianxija, 2 helicopters were preparing. "You must catch them," an Air Force commander ordered. "Yes, sir." An Air Force soldiers saluted. Then, the Air Force commander turned to the soldiers behind him and said, "You should also be prepared." 10 minutes later, Jonathan and Suzuki were losing breath but forced their bodies to run. Another 10 minutes passed, Yvonne and Bianca started to tire as well, and Suzuki and Jonathan were carried by Kenriku and Floyd. A minute later, the sound of helicopters filled the air, and the group's expression grew serious. "Axu, be prepared," Floyd instructed. "Axu," responded the Pokémon, taking 5 seconds to use Dragon Dance. "Everyone, listen to me. Use all your strongest attacks if you want to survive, we are going to face a big deal this time," Floyd shouted. "Those with long-range attacks, listen to me. If I say go, then use your long-range attack. Don't attack unless I give the command," Floyd instructed. "Those who have defense moves and short-range attacks, listen up. The long-range attack will go first, after they've finished, I will shout protect, and you guys will follow. Use your strongest defense," Floyd continued, simplifying his instructions so all the Pokémon could understand. "Don't hesitate, or we will die. Do you understand?" Floyd activated his dragon aura, appearing even more formidable, much to the surprise of Kenriku and the others. "This aura, why do I feel I've been scolded by my former boss?" Kenriku wondered. "Magby. Meowth. Cherubi Geodude Mary E Pratuta. Cham Cham. Chico Chicorit. Zigzagoon B Duf Oddish Sai. Gumi Cubone Happiny Metapod Munchlax Pedal. Crying, Chalky, Chalky. Those who use long-range attacks, come to the front, and those with defense and melee attacks, position yourselves closely behind them. If the long-range attacks fail, those in defense must move to the front and use your defensive moves," instructed Floyd. The Pokémon promptly took their positions, with Kenriku and the others standing close to Floyd. "If the defense succeeds, return to your previous positions. I will then shout go and protect again. Make sure you know your assignments. Do you understand?" Floyd looked at them and asked. All the Pokémon nodded in understanding. "Is this okay?" Kenriku looked worried. "We have no choice but to deal with it," Floyd replied, feeling helpless. He had just experienced danger yesterday, and now it was happening again. He was still careless and had much to learn. Floyd then noticed a young star-shaped creature and called out, "You! Kuriath! Chalky! Chalky!" In the middle of preparing, she saw Floyd pointing at her, so she looked at him, confused. "You stand in the center and protect them," Floyd instructed. "Chalky? Chalky! Kuriai!" She didn't understand what was happening, but hearing Floyd's command, she complied and stood in the center. "Floyd!" Kenriku noticed a small cute creature in the center and looked questioningly at Floyd. "Don't worry, I know that small beast," Floyd reassured, although he was not entirely certain. He had heard in his previous life that Tajipai was a symbol of luck, and from watching some parts of an anime, it seemed to hold true, except in the Mirage Kingdom. Chapter 30, Facing a Crisis, in Dire Straits. Thanks for 100k views. Two black attack helicopters suddenly appeared in their sight, making the atmosphere tense instantaneously. The pilots, upon spotting heat signatures, each released 2 infrared homing missiles. Seeing the 4 missiles approaching, the Pokémon felt scared. They wanted to back down, but it was too late. Floyd calculated the timing and then shouted, "Go!" One Mariup used Thunder Shock, and 2 others used Thunder Wave move. Cubone, nervously clutching her bone, closed her eyes and activated Mud Slap move. Wooper used Water Gun move. Magby executed Ember move. Seduck, tilting his head, surprisingly activated Confusion move. Chikorita used Razor Leaf move. Spinarak deployed Infestation move. 5 Gummies used Bubble move to slow down the missiles. Surprisingly, they managed to defend against the first attack. All the Pokémon celebrated their successful defense, with even Tijipai jumping and dancing, chanting, "Chalky! Chalky! Kuriai." Suddenly, one Mariup glowed, surprising the others. "Be careful!" Floyd warned, seeing another 8 missiles approaching. "Be ready!" He calculated the timing and then shouted again, "Go!" The long-range attackers immediately used their moves. The glowing Mariup evolved into Flavi and promptly followed, using Thunder Shock. However, this time their defense was weaker. Most of the Pokémon were malnourished, their levels were low and their stamina was almost exhausted on running earlier. The newly evolved Flavi collapsed after using the skill and from the strain of evolving. Retreat. Defense, protect. Floyd's forehead was slick with sweat. Kanraku and the others were astonished by the Pokémon's combined defense against the 4 missiles. However, they were in a dilemma upon seeing another 8 missiles launched. Kanraku regretted not bringing his Wartortlace and Blastoise. Midumultank, the strongest and only fully formed Pokémon, took the initiative first, using Defense Curl move. Axew followed, using Breaking Swipe after a buff from Dragon Dance. Bidoof. 2 Bidoof hurriedly used Rollout move. Geodude. 2. Guadud, used Defense Curl move. Munchlax used Defense Curl move. Happy New York. Happiny used Defense Curl move. Urpuchayana used Tackle move. Cherubi used Leafage move and collapsed. 3 Rattata used Quick Attack and Tackle, and Mime Jr. timidly used Pound. Metapod only used Harden. 4 Petalil used Helping Hand move to help them. Since the long-range attacks had already weakened the 8 missiles, the melee attackers managed to defend against them. However, they overlooked one crucial detail: the missiles would explode, causing recoil damage. Boom! The explosion's vibration was deafening. Suzuki, Bianca, Yvonne, and Jonathan temporarily lost their hearing, while Kanraku panicked, witnessing the scene and continuously using his power. Axew! Floyd shouted desperately, tears in his eyes, knowing his initial Pokémon Axew and others were in the blast radius. He was full of regret, but there's no medicine for regret. However, surprisingly, the explosion didn't reach them. Instead, it spiraled upward and vanished. Pilots, soldiers, Kanraku, Floyd, and the Pokémon were left astonished, not understanding what had just happened. Then, Floyd saw a blue creature, Wooper, who was shaking nervously with its eyes closed, standing in front of them. Floyd suddenly remembered that the Pokémon Wooper seemed to have the ability Damp. Damp, this ability prevents all Pokémon on the field from using the moves Self-Destruct and Explosion. Surprisingly, this Wooper actually had the Damp ability. What kind of luck was this? Wooper, thank you. Floyd was really glad and rushed to him, seeing Wooper was collapsed. Wooper closed his eyes and lost consciousness. Floyd caught him with his arm. Although they were surprised, the crisis was far from over, as the 2 helicopters started to launch their attacks again. "I surrender," Kanraku suddenly announced, stepping forward with his arms open. Please don't hurt them anymore. I will surrender myself and give you all you want. He threw his bag full of berries forward, then knelt, raising his arms. Professor! Floyd and the others were taken aback. All the exhausted Pokémon, hearing Kanraku's words, felt a wave of despair as if their hope had vanished. Would they return to being slaves again? Would they be forced to act against their will for human vanity? Honestly, they didn't want that. I'm sorry, I've implicated you all. It's my fault that I betrayed your expectations, but for your safety and protection, I have to do this. I'm really sorry, Kanraku cried, regretting his earlier recklessness. Like Yvonne said, they could have rescued them while hiding for a few days or even a week, but he couldn't wait. He had overconfidently thought he could manage with only his group, without Blastoise. Meanwhile, the soldiers were discussing the situation. He's giving up, said an Air Force soldier holding binoculars. Be careful, Lord Blue hasn't appeared yet, cautioned an Air Force commander. Have them kneel and throw their things far away, instructed the commander. Roger that, replied the soldier. Kneel down, throw your things far away, take your clothes off, and put your hands at the back of your head. I repeat, kneel down, throw your things far away, take your clothes off, and put your hands at the back of your head, a soldier announced over the PA system. Hearing the soldier's voice, Kanraku immediately complied. Floyd, Jonathan, and Yvonne frowned but followed suit, while Suzuki and Bianca, being women, hesitated. We have women here. Kanraku shouted. Women are not excluded. Remove all your clothes, you might be hiding weapons. I repeat, women are not excluded. Remove all your clothes, you might be hiding weapons, the soldier retorted over the PA system. You're going too far. Kanraku shouted back. Comply now, or face the consequences, the soldier sternly replied. Suzuki and Bianca blushed and hesitated. Just as they were about to comply, a rattling sound from the sea drew their attention. They saw a shell spinning rapidly towards them. Jumping in the air and rotating his body, then shot at the two helicopters. Water gun move. Pew! Pew! Blastoise appeared. Blastoise! Pang! Pang! The two attack helicopters were shaken and damaged. Here he comes, Lord Blue! One of the soldiers shouted. Execute Plan B. The Air Force commander ordered. On the other side, Kanraku and the others' eyes lit up, and they stood. Partner, you are here! Kanraku cried out, tears in his eyes. Blastoise! Blastoise looked at Kanraku with concern and nodded. Chapter 31, Blastoise's Fury. Floyd was surprised to see Blastoise suddenly appear. Wasn't he on the ship more than 20 kilometers away? Blastoise didn't seem to specialize in speed, but Floyd put that thought aside to focus on the current situation. Partner, it might be hard for you, you must cover us from the attack while running. Everyone, follow us. Kanraku said as he picked up Happiny and the malnourished Munchlax. Blastoise responded, understanding his assignment. Floyd placed the 5 tired Gumi and 4 unconscious Petalil in his backpack, then picked up the unconscious Fluffy, Metapod, and Wooper. Tijipai jumped happily onto Multank's head, and the other Pokémon, now seeing a glimmer of hope from Kanraku's promise, forced themselves to stand. They were desperate to run. Then, the 2 attack helicopters launched their last 3 missiles each. Seeing the 6 homing missiles coming, Blastoise used Aquajet to jump up, and the missiles changed their target to him. Blastoise used Protect move with his back. Boom! Vibrations resonated throughout the surroundings. Blastoise was knocked to the ground. Pu! The ground shook. Partner! Sensing his partner in distress, Kanraku shouted worriedly. Blastoise! Bruised and battered, Blastoise stood up and responded. Although he had used Protect, he was still dealing with 6 missiles. Just one might not have been a problem, but Blastoise had used Shell Smash to its limit to rush here rapidly, reducing his defense and special defense 2 stages. He had even surpassed some Wartortles who were also heading to the rescue. Another reason for his predicament was Kenriku's aversion to killing, otherwise, Blastoise could have already destroyed the helicopters with Hydro Pump. Blastoise looked at Kenriku, signaling that he was okay. On the other hand, the 2 attack helicopters, now out of missiles, revealed Gatling guns. Shoot! The commander ordered. Ta 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 ta. Ta 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 ta. Then, 2 more attack helicopters unexpectedly appeared. Blastoise continued to use rapid spin to shield against the bullets, and then 2 more missiles came from the newly arrived helicopters. Blastoise used Aquajet and then rapid spin to intercept the incoming missiles. However, he was surprised when, instead of an explosion, countless tear gas was released from the missiles, followed by 12 missiles. The previous 2 helicopters changed their target from Kenriku to Blastoise and kept firing at him with the Gatling guns. Then, another 4 attack helicopters unexpectedly appeared, making a total of 8. The city had mobilized all its resources for this. Their real target wasn't Kenriku, but Blastoise. The 4 newly arrived helicopters released a total of 36 homing missiles, making it 48 missiles in all. Boom 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 boom. 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 Countless explosions echoed near the seashore, and even the sea grew turbulent from the vibrations. Yvonne, Jonathan, Bianca, Suzuki, and some already exhausted Pokémon were affected by the strong impact and lost consciousness. Partner! A semi-conscious Kenriku cried out desperately. He hadn't expected these people to be so ruthless as to use their most powerful weapons against Blastoise. Floyd's eyes widened in shock. He remembered the scene with the Dragonite mother. It hadn't been as ruthless as this. Perhaps he hadn't seen the full extent of it, as when he found the Dragonite mother in the cave, she had already been severely injured. The battle he witnessed when she was near death was just a post-battle. Partner! If you are still alive, do it! Don't hesitate! Kill them! Kenriku's eyes were red with rage. He regretted his previous stance. He had kept Blastoise from killing people because he still adhered to the rule of humanity about not killing one's own kind. But to the Pokémon, these humans were more like beasts, ruthless to the point of disregarding the feelings of the Pokémon they called beasts. Please hear me! Do it! Kenriku shouted. Roar! Meanwhile, many creatures in the forest were disturbed and angered. They looked at the flying helicopters. Bang! One helicopter was hit by a stone and exploded. Boom! Sir, was Wang Xiao Din number 6 exploded, and countless beasts are appearing. One of the soldiers reported anxiously. There's no hope for them here, we can only pray for their survival. Now, hurry up, snatch Lord Blue, and escape. Sighed the Air Force commander, thinking about his fallen comrades. However, the mission comes first, so he shouted. Roger! Sir, we have no ammunition, we will retreat right now, reported the 2 pilots who appeared earlier. Understood, you've already done your best, go and retreat, said the Air Force commander. Roger! 2 helicopters retreated, avoiding the dangerous beasts, while the remaining 5 approached Blastoise. As the 5 helicopters surrounded the explosion site where Blastoise was, they felt a strong cold wind when the smoke subsided. Then, they saw Blastoise with red eyes, a full injured face, and a broken shell standing and looking at them. What? All soldiers were shocked and were about to fly high to escape, and then Blastoise's torrent ability activated. He then used a full-force hydro pump and spun it towards all the attack helicopters. Whooshing! Boom 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 boom! All 5 attack helicopters exploded instantly. What? What? The soldiers and pilots of the 2 retreating helicopters looked back in shock and saw the 5 helicopters exploding. Fear flickered in their eyes. "Commander!" one of the soldiers cried in tears. "The commander is dead," one of the pilots said, his face a mix of dignity and fear. "We can't do anything here, let's retreat. This mission has failed. Be prepared for the punishment upon our return," one of the acting leaders said, closing his eyes, feeling unwilling. They had almost succeeded. Back at the seashore where the incident happened, countless Pokémon flocked to watch the scene. They looked at the bloodied, injured Blastoise with fear. His aura was intimidating. Blastoise scanned them, then shouted, "Blastoise!" Then he activated Hydro Pump for the second time. Whooshing! All the trees were cut, and many Pokémon ran away. Blastoise watched the Pokémon running away. He had deliberately not killed them, he just wanted them to leave. Seeing them run away, he sighed in relief and lost consciousness. "Partner!" Kanraku rushed towards Blastoise, crying. "Partner, I'm sorry, I've caused you trouble. Partner, just stay alive, please don't die." Kanraku hurriedly used his power on him. Floyd, witnessing the scene, was shocked by Blastoise's power. It was immense. It was truly comparable to Dragonite Mother, he even felt this Blastoise was stronger. Then, seeing Kanraku's power, he was astonished. Did he have a power similar to his but slightly different? Was it psychic? No. Aura? No. Dragon power? No. Could it be a power similar to Viridian? There were rumors that Giovanni, the boss of Team Rocket, had a similar power. Could it be like that? "Professor!" Floyd hesitated for a bit, then rushed towards him and muttered. "FF Floyd-san, who, F Floyd-san," Kanraku cried as he gripped Floyd's shoulder. Professor, it hurts, what is it?" Floyd asked, seeing Kanraku's crying face as he tightly held his shoulders. "Floyd, my partner, his vitality, it's depleting." "Floyd, you know medicine, right? Help me, I don't want my partner to die," Kanraku cried. What did you say?" Floyd's mouth widened in shock. "My partner. Blastoise's vitality is decreasing," Kanraku repeated. Chapter 32, Found the Loophole. Vitality depletion. Isn't this a similar situation to the one with Dragonite Mother? What can I do in this situation? Because even I was helpless. Floyd pondered. "Floyd-san, do you have any solutions? Because I don't know what to do anymore." "Partner, please hold on," Kanraku pleaded as he returned to Blastoise, activating his power. "Professor. I can't do it," Floyd bit his lip and admitted. His points were only 5,800, and the cost of making full heal was 9,600. How could he afford it? If you remember, the cost of making the full heal potion was 11,600 back in Chapter 2. That's because Floyd spends 2,000 points on the recipe, and now he has a recipe, you know that already. "Oh, that's right, Floyd, do you still have that potion?" Kanraku suddenly remembered the potion that Floyd had given him. "Professor, I still haven't mastered that skill. I tried to make it more than 100x, but I only made 2. One I used when I almost died, and the last one is the one I gave to you." Floyd lied to him about how he attempted to make it and also about the other potion, which he used on Dragonite Mother. Floyd could make it now, it would only cost a total of 4,800, but he knew it was useless, he had already tried it with Dragonite Mother, and it didn't work. By the way, I updated his given reward in Chapter 3, which I added 2 healing potions in the recipe. One is when he put on Dragonite Mother, and the other one he gave to Kanraku. But let me think about it. Floyd closed his eyes and inquired in his mind, "System, can you help me this time?" Is there any other way that I can afford with my current points to cure this blastoise? I have a way, but he's not associated with dragon, sorry, I can't do it. What? Why didn't I know there's such a rule like that? Floyd was surprised. Did you forget your mission? I know it's breeding dragon, but it doesn't mean I can get some item to heal another type, right? Yeah, but it's already depends on host ability, not system. Why? Is it really not allowed? Yes. Why? Isn't it obvious? From the beginning until now, most are related to dragons. Then what about the berries locator, things like full heal, and methods such as massaging, poke block, potion making, berry powder making, poke ball, berry blender, simulation, these aren't related to dragons at all, Floyd complained. Floyd-san, his vitality is still going down. What to do? I don't know what to do. Floyd-san, help me, Kenriku was already panicking, holding his head. His only hope now was Floyd. Professor, try this powder. Floyd handed all his healing powder and energy powder to Kenriku to ease his panic, but he knew it wasn't going to work. The only way was to bargain with the system. Floyd-san, arigato gozaimasu, please, partner, you must hold on. Kenriku hurriedly administered all the powder to blastoise. And then, on the sea, Kenriku's ship and many wardortles rushed to them. They saw many unconscious people and, most importantly, blastoise. Wardortle, they exclaimed in panic and rushed toward blastoise. Isn't your berry locator for when your dragons need berries to eat? Isn't that full heal for curing Dragonite? Aren't the methods you referred to, such as massaging, poke block, potion making, berry powder making, and berry blender, so your dragon Pokémon can stay strong, healthy, be fed, and have a good foundation? Your Pokeball has a customized function suitable for dragons. And you also have simulation to accelerate your learning so you can treat your dragons better. And now you're telling me they are not dragon related. Hearing what the system said, Floyd became dumbfounded. That's right, how come he didn't notice it? They really were related to dragons. But why did it feel like the system was implying he was a slave that needed to treat dragons better? All the wardortles cried as they approached blastoise, fearing their boss was going to die. Other wardortles who had healing moves immediately used them. In addition, many Pokémon on the ship, including Chansey, rushed to blastoise to heal him. They were saddened to see the big boss of the ship injured. Many, including Oddish, Eevee, Meowth, Pidgey, etc., cried. Swablu, Tailo, and Wingull also appeared, with Swablu's face already flooded with tears, but unable to do anything but watch. Horsa and Dratini rushed to Floyd, then to the unconscious Axu. System, is there really no way? Can you just let me do this, just this time, please, I'm begging you. No. System, are you really that heartless? Host, I'm sorry. The system's will is only for dragons, it was programmed from the start when you appeared. I can't do anything about it, so if you can't convince me that they are related to dragons, I can't do anything about it. Related. Floyd fell into deep thought. Damn it, why? His vitality keeps depleting. Partner, you must hold on, please. Do you remember our dream? I can't do it without you, please, you must hold on. This was the first time that Kenriku felt so desperate. If he could turn back time, he would have already told blastoise to directly attack the helicopters. If the exchange for not killing these people is the death of his partner, then it would have been better for them to die. Floyd-san, I'm begging you, please find a way. Kenriku, desperate and crying, kneeled as he held Floyd's legs. Professor, I'm also trying to find a way, just please give me more time. Floyd also felt hesitant because it was hard to convince the system. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. System, can't blastoise learn Dragon Pulse from a trademark? Then he can be associated with dragons, right? Yes, indeed. But sadly, he didn't learn it. What? Then can I buy trademark? He suddenly remembered it seemed he couldn't. Host, you already asked me the same question before. Didn't I remind you? The system doesn't produce that item. But it doesn't change the fact that Blastwaz can learn Dragon Pulse. Even though he hasn't learned it, Blastwaz is still associated with dragons, right? Host, don't force it. It doesn't follow the rules, he didn't learn Dragon Pulse. Floyd-san, can't you do it? Seeing Floyd unmoving, Kenrika felt disappointed. Warderdle. 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 The other Warderdle knew that Floyd was also capable. Since they couldn't heal it, maybe Floyd had a way. I'm thinking, just give me more time. I'm finding a way. Kenriku-san, everyone, do your best to delay it. I promise you, I will find a way, Floyd sincerely told them. Seeing Floyd's serious look, they knew he wasn't joking, so they nodded, albeit disappointingly. System, you mean you're adhering to the rules, right? Floyd's mouth curled. Yes. Indeed. Remember your first sentence when I asked you. It seems you broke your rules, Floyd pointed out. Host, what do you mean? I remember when I asked you if you could cure Blastwaz, you said in your first sentence that you have a way, something like that. Wait, let me check. This is what I said, if I remember correctly, I have a way, but he's not associated with dragons, sorry, I can't do it. Since you're saying he's not associated with dragons, you shouldn't say I have a way, because how can you have a way to cure him if he's not associated with dragons, am I right? Aren't you all just for dragons? Floyd smiled and said. Wait. Host, it seems you're right. That was my mistake. The reason I said that accidentally is that, in my database, Blastwaz was really included, but not as a first priority, which are dragon types, nor as the second priority, which are non-dragon types but belong to the dragon egg group. He's in the third priority, which includes Pokémon not associated with dragons but can learn a few dragon moves. I might have said it accidentally. If Blastwaz had learned the Dragon Pulse move, you would have the right to say that you have a way. But since he didn't learn any dragon moves and you answered me like that, it's your mistake. How can you compensate me? Floyd hoped the system would be fooled by his nonsense reasoning. Well, host, you got me this time. Since you found a mistake in my system, I will let you pass this time. The method will be free. Oh, there's such a thing? If I find your loophole, the request can be free. Yes, as long as your request is reasonable and belongs to the topic which was the loophole you found, it's free. I see, I get it. Then can you help me this time? Floyd sighed in relief. Yes, I will do it. Actually, it's simple, and this Blastwaz is lucky. Lucky? System, what do you mean? His second ability was semi-awakened, I will show you, but only this time. Originally, I shouldn't show stats if a Pokémon is not related to dragons, but since you outsmarted me, I'll show you. Here it is. Pokémon, Blastwaz, Burnt State, Vitality Depletion. Level, 57. Type, Water. Ability, Torrent, Rain Dish. Moves. Advanced level, Water Gun, Rapid Spin, Hydro Pump, Aqua Jet, Tackle, Protect, Water Pulse. Intermediate level, Shell Smash, Fake Out, Rain Dance, Flash Cannon. Beginner level, Skull Bash, Iron Defense, Aqua Tail. Genetic skill, Aqua Jet, Fake Out. Chapter 33, Unexpected Fortune, Chansey's debut. Seeing the ability of Rain Dish, Floyd's lit up in surprise. Rain Dish, a Pokémon with Rain Dish will recover 1/16 of its maximum HP during rain. Floyd didn't know how this Blastwaz get another ability, but it didn't matter for now because the most important thing was to rescue him right now. Everyone, I have a way. Warderdle, Professor, and Chansey, I need your help. Everyone looked at him with surprise. Floyd-san, can you, really? Kanraku's eyes widened with joy. Chansey? Chansey. Chansey was surprised that she was called by him. She was scared at first, but seeing the situation right now, she fought his fear and nodded. Warderdle. 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 All Warderdle desperate expression were changed in joy as they surrounded Floyd with hope in their eyes. Yes, but the first thing we need to do is escape this place right now, it's not safe to stay here anymore. Warderdle, I need you to carry your boss in the middle of the sea. Floyd reminded them as many Pokémon here were still unconscious and looked at Warderdle. Don't worry about it, everyone, please help me this time, Kanraku said and hurriedly bowed to every Pokémon. Machub. Machok. Rattata. Eebai. Mankey. Tweet. Other Pokémon also responded as they looked at them saying, we will take care of it. Then they moved each unconscious Pokémon, even human, as they carried each one of them on the ship. Everyone, seeing this scene, Kanraku almost shed tears as he watched these beasts helping him lift the unconscious beasts and humans on the ship. Floyd remembered the phrase, as long as you treat your Pokémon with care and respect, they will treat you the same way. It seemed it happened right now. Kanraku struggled to hold back his tears, then he looked at the army of Warderdle, saying, Warderdle, Chansey, we must go with Floyd now. Kanraku looked at the acting leader Warderdle. Warderdle nodded and saluted, then looked at Floyd. Chansey. Chansey nodded seriously. Okay, let's go to the sea, Floyd said. 3 minutes later, Floyd, Kanraku, Chansey, Growlithe, and many Warderdle surrounded Blastoise in the middle of the sea. On their sides was the Kanraku's ship where many Pokémon were curiously watching with concern. Floyd, Chansey, Growlithe, and Kanraku approached Blastoise, who was lying on the sea, with the help of Wardortlace carrying them on their back. Professor, Chansey, Warderdle, use your ability, please. Then Floyd pour the powder that made in Rostberry, although it can't really cure the Blastoise extreme status burnt, it much better than nothing. Then he also put a healing powder and energy powder on Blastoise's mouth. Got it. Kanraku nodded and looked at his partner with worry. Chansey nodded seriously, she knew her assignment and she must do her best. Many Warderdle who can use Life Dew also nodded. As for Growlithe, who followed Chansey, everyone ignored him. Those who can learn the rain move, use it. Floyd already tells them what to do, and the rest of Wardortlace nodded and activated it. Tick 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 tick. Many droplets of rain were gently pattering as the rain continued to drop in a steady rhythm and still increases. Eventually, it became a strong heavy downpour coming on the sea. Hearing Growlithe cry in agony while hiding behind Chansey, Floyd rolled his eyes. He silently thought, serves you right. No one had invited him along, and Floyd had even warned against it. Knowing that the Hisuian form of Growlithe was fire and rock, it had a significant vulnerability to water. While this wasn't a game, the logic still there, which were, fire and rock is especially weak to water. Yet, the stubborn Growlithe insisted on joining. He was evidently very attached to Chansey. Watching him suffer in the rain, Floyd, seeing that Kanraku, Chansey, and the Wardortlace were preoccupied, picked him up. Where? Where? Growlithe panicked in Floyd's grasp. Even though Floyd had once aided him, past traumatic experiences with humans overwhelmed his senses. Quiet now, here, Floyd offered a pasho berry, having anticipated Growlithe's distress. After all, Professor Kanraku had a plenty of stocks of berries. Growlithe resisted, his two paws reaching out to Chansey. If you interrupt them and Blastoise isn't saved, Chansey will be upset with you, Floyd tried to reason using Chansey's relationship as leverage. It worked, Growlithe stopped struggling. Chansey. From afar, Chansey tried to convey that Floyd's words weren't true, but her focus was primarily on healing Blastoise. With Growlithe now calmer, Floyd breathed a sigh of relief. But still sensing the Pokémon's fear as his heart starts beating rapidly, "So," he said, "here, don't fuss. Eat this." Without waiting for this guy's response, Floyd fed him the berry in his mouth. Ayo! Growlithe was about to vomit, but the human holding him quickly closed his mouth. Growlithe tried to struggle, but compared to the human, he was weak. Unable to open his mouth, he bitterly swallowed the berry. However, a few seconds later, despite the rain causing him pain, he felt the pain receding. Growlithe began to think it might have been due to the berry. Was this human genuinely trying to help him? He then watched as Floyd took a large towel, wrapped it around him, and stepped forward towards Blastoise, cradling the bundled Growlithe in his arms. He noticed the rain pouring onto Blastoise's body. As Blastoise absorbed the rain, he began to heal gradually. It penetrated deep into his bones, alleviating severe internal injuries, and mending external wounds and bruises. Blastoise's burnt state also began to fade. A few minutes later, as Kanraku continued to heal Blastoise with effort, his eyes suddenly sparkled with hope, and he shouted excitedly, his vitality stopped decreasing. His vitality stopped decreasing. Floyd-san hu. Sniff, arigato you. Tears streamed down Kanraku's face as he looked at Floyd with deep gratitude. Professor, stay focused on the healing. We're still unsure if he's fully recovered, Floyd said, slightly embarrassed by Kanraku's emotional display, which reminded him of a child crying out of sheer joy. Sniff, you're right, Sniff, focus first, focus first. Although exhausted, Kanraku forced himself to refocus on Blastoise, determined to see his partner through. A few minutes later, many Wartortles continued using their rain move upon seeing the improvement in their boss's condition. Then, Kanraku shouted, "It's increasing. The vitality is increasing. Chansey. Wartortle. 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 Wartortle." Many Wartortles jumped excitedly, tears streaming from their eyes. Their boss had been saved. Chansey smiled happily as she healed another Pokémon. This was her second successful attempt at healing, and her confidence seemed to have grown significantly because of it. Suddenly, water energy gathered in Chansey's hand and then flowed onto Blastoise. Life do move. Everyone was surprised by this scene. But it didn't end there. A strong green energy gathered within her and was directed to Blastoise. Heal pulse move. What? Floyd was taken aback. Chansey learned two moves at once. He theorized that the life dew must be inspired by observing some Wartortles using it and due to the water environment, and that the heal pulse might have been self-learned by herself. She truly deserved to be recognized as the #1 nurse in the Pokémon world, a genuine natural-born healer. Chansey? Chansey? Chansey, not fully understanding what had just transpired, spontaneously activated her newly learned moves. Nonetheless, she was thrilled because these new moves were more potent than her inherent abilities. Chansey, remember this sensation. Combine your innate abilities with these moves, it's more cost-effective, advised Floyd. Chansey. With a nod, Chansey expressed her newfound confidence. Chapter 34, Bring me your food. Blastoise. Blastoise murmured and opened his eyes. Slowly, his arms and feet began to move. At first, his vision was blurry, but bit by bit, it became clear. He saw Kanraku and Wartortle's teary eyes as they gazed at him with tears of joy. Blastoise. Partner, you've awakened. Kanraku hugged him tightly. Wartortle. 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 The group of Wartortles jumped with joy, tears pouring down their faces. Floyd hadn't expected Blastoise to heal so quickly given the circumstances. He suddenly remembered Dragonite. If he let Dragonite out and allowed Chansey, Kenraku and the other Wartortles to help, perhaps she would heal quickly as well. Both Blastoise and Dragonite were in similar conditions. Even though Blastoise was fortunate to have the semi-ability Rain Dish, Dragonite didn't. However, how could he explain Dragonite's sudden appearance to Kenraku? Should he explain the concept of a Pokeball? And if so, how would he explain knowing how to make one? The only feasible way seemed to be to acquire a Pokeball recipe or stick to his plan and heal Dragonite himself, though that might take longer. Floyd sighed helplessly, deciding to address the matter later. At this moment, many Wartortles used the Rain Dance move to celebrate. The intensity was milder than before. Machub, Tweet, Ebi, Magby, Fluffy, Axew. All the Pokémon on the ship were overjoyed to see Blastoise alive. Even those who had been unconscious and had just awakened joined in the celebration. Little Horsa danced adorably in the rain. Horsa! The celebration was interrupted by a loud noise from the ship. Boom! Roar! Coincidentally, Gyarados had also awakened. He broke the glass on the side of the ship, causing it to tilt dangerously. Emerging from the ship, Gyarados rose high, scanning his surroundings until he spotted Horsa. Roar! Horsa's expression became tense as she rushed towards Floyd. What? Floyd was caught off guard seeing Horsa and Gyarados both rushing toward him. Suddenly, a forceful stream of water struck Gyarados. Wish! Hydro pump! Bang! Once again, Gyarados was knocked into the water. Blastoise had come to the rescue. Floyd sensed that Blastoise's aura had grown stronger, almost matching that of the Dragonite mother. Regrettably, he couldn't see his stats any longer, as the system prevented him. Now, it was round 2 between Blastoise and Gyarados. Floyd believed Gyarados stood no chance against Blastoise due to the significant level gap. Roar! Gyarados rose once more, this time more cautiously. He looked at Blastoise, a mix of dignity and fear in his eyes. Recognizing his disadvantage, Gyarados conceded, Roar! You, big turtle, I don't want to fight. I just want my little sister back. Gyarados glanced at Horsa, who was peeking out from behind Floyd, her body trembling with fear. Sister! Floyd, taken aback, looked at Horsa. Young lad, is this guy your brother? Horsa hesitated for a moment before nodding in confirmation. Floyd was at a loss for words, never expecting such a twist concerning Horsa. Roar! Weak human, return my sister! Gyarados lunged at Floyd again. Wish! Gyarados quickly dodged, moving back. Roar! Big turtle, I bear no ill intention against you. This was none of your business, right? Blastoise! Blastoise shook his head and said, he's my benefactor. Roar! I don't care anymore. Gyarados activated his Dragon Dance. But Blastoise used his rapid spin and then rushed toward Gyarados. Bang! Gyarados' Dragon Dance was interrupted, he flew away near the sea. But Gyarados didn't give up and continued to use Dragon Dance. Still, Blastoise didn't let him. Blastoise used Aqua Jet. Bang! Roar! Gyarados wailed and flew again, but this time down into the water. But it wasn't enough, he received another hit. Hydro Pump! Bang! Gyarados sank down beneath the sea. Horsa, big fish! Horsa looked worried at Gyarados and felt hesitant. Turtle boss, I think, that should be enough, right? Seeing Horsa's concern, Floyd grew wary of Blastoise, especially recalling his previous strength. Floyd spoke to Blastoise in a sober mood, thinking that, since Gyarados is Horsa's brother, there's really no need to be ruthless. Yet, partner, don't be too rash. It seems it's just a misunderstanding, maybe we can still talk to him nicely, Kenraku mentioned. He also understood the creatures, realizing the misunderstanding wasn't about them but someone behind Floyd. Plus, this was a new creature he hadn't examined yet. Hearing what his benefactor and owner said, Blastoise nodded and swam beneath the sea. A few seconds later, Blastoise emerged, holding a semi-unconscious Gyarados. They all hurried back to the ship. Half an hour later, Gyarados had awakened, though he was still weak. The first sight he beheld was two humans, especially one holding his sister. His eyes turned red with anger. Roar, human! Blastoise! Blastoise appeared, signaling he'd attack if Gyarados made a wrong move. Roar! Gyarados instinctively moved backward at the sight of Blastoise, and even his roar turned comedic. Roar, I just wanted to get my sister back. He looked at Blastoise and expressed his grievance. Horsa! Big fish, I don't want to come back. Horsa mumbled hesitantly, then turned to Gyarados. Roar, why don't you want to come back? Why do you want to be with this weak human? Horsa, he's good. Roar, I'm unconvinced. How can he be good? Human, let's fight one-on-one. Let's see who's stronger between us. Gyarados challenged Floyd, thinking he could beat him. Floyd trembled. Fight one-on-one? Only a foolish human would try that. Even with his dragon buff, he can't combat a fully evolved creature like Gyarados. Once again, Blastoise warned Gyarados with a glare. Roar! Gyarados avoided the gaze and taunted Floyd. It's impossible to beat you, I know, Floyd admitted. Roar, see, sister? How can he be as good as me? Let's go home, father is waiting. Horsa, but my master cooks delicious food. I don't want to leave. Roar, how can this weak human make good food? Do you want me to catch fish, octopus, or squid? Weren't those your favorites? Horsa, ugh. Those raw things are so disgusting, they make me want to puke. Shock. Gyarados was dumbfounded, as if he had received 100x critical hits. His sister had just called it disgusting. How could she? Weren't those her favorites? He still remembered catching those things for her enjoyment, and now she found them disgusting? Roar, tha that's disgusting? But you loved those. Horsa, that's before, and honestly, every time I think about those things, I feel like I could die, like I'm in a nightmare, they're that disgusting. 1000 critical hits. Finish him. Horsa, I can only say those foods are only for the beast at the very bottom, those who can't afford to eat something good. Sometimes I feel pity for father, you, and me. How could we eat something so disgusting? Are we really that poor? KO. Gyarados was truly speechless this time. He hadn't expected his sister to change this much, to the point where she seemed like a stranger. Roar, I'm not convinced. You. Human. Bring me your food. Chapter 35, A Solution? Maybe train a beasts. August 31st, 5 p.m. At the army base in Xinchija, a congregation of prominent figures, including generals and the city's president, assembled. They attentively watched a screen displaying footage of a young teenager commanding beasts and defending against 12 homing missiles. The spectacle culminated with Blastoise deflecting each missile. The subsequent footage showed a sneak attack by helicopters, launching a barrage of missiles at Blastoise. A solemn atmosphere permeated the room following the video. Where's the footage of our attack helicopters being downed? A government official inquired. Based on our report, the helicopters hadn't captured it because they were returning due to a lack of ammunition, an army officer replied. Where are those involved? Stand and identify yourselves, a general demanded. Sir, I'm the pilot of Wuzhuang Shaodin No. 1. Sir, I'm the chief of Wuzhuang Shaodin No. 1. Sir, I'm member of Was Wang Xiao Din number 1. Sir, I'm, another member of Was Wang Xiao Din number 1. Sir, I'm, the pilot of Was Wang Xiao Din number 2. Dozens of soldiers who had participated rose and reported. Did anyone witness the explosion's cause? A general questioned. General, we only observed one of the beasts hurl a rock, striking attack helicopter Was Wang Xiao Din number 6. We suspect disturbances from multiple explosions in the Wuxian forest provoked them. We didn't stay after running out of ammunition. As we retreated, we heard Lord Blue's voice and witnessed 5 helicopters detonate instantly. We only caught a glimpse of the aftermath, the chief officer recounted, his voice laden with sorrow over the loss of his comrades. So it occurred instantaneously. An air of disbelief settled over the room. Why would the beast wait until it was injured to use that kind of power? Are you making excuses? A skeptical government official retorted. With conviction, the chief soldier replied, Your Honor, I swear on my uniform, the memory of my fallen comrades, my love for this city, and its people, doubt me, criticize me, but never question my integrity. I wouldn't lie or deceive, my devotion is to this city's defense. I implore you not to question my truthfulness. Another soldier stood up and saluted, Sir, I can attest to the chief's account. We experienced the same events. Echoing his sentiments, other soldiers stood, attesting to the chief's account. This. A previously doubtful official, moved by the displays of integrity, conceded, I believe you. My apologies for the earlier skepticism, he said, lowering his head in remorse. However, another official interjected, the past is past. We need to address our current situation. We've exhausted 75% of our military resources on that mission. How do we continue our defense against these beasts? We've received reports of retaliatory beast attacks on our bases in recent hours, someone replied. What's the current status? Currently, we're holding up, but it's uncertain for how long. What about arms production? Aircraft? Can it be ramped up? Mr. President, while we can speed up the production of automatic rifles and pistols, manufacturing more complex weaponry like grenade launchers or missiles will pose challenges. As for aircraft such as attack helicopters, that will take significantly more time, a personnel hesitated before admitting. Everything fell silent, and the atmosphere grew tense. How are the citizens faring? One official inquired. We've imposed a lockdown, especially restricting children from going outside. We've also halted gatherings in areas such as the commercial district and Merchant Square in Lower Town. Another replied. Is there no alternative? Does anyone have suggestions? Speak up, the official urged. Your Honor, perhaps we should prioritize automatic rifles. Quantity might be more advantageous. One suggested. No, Your Honor, that's quite risky. Some beasts are immune to rifle fire. We should consider. Maybe we could. Countless proposals poured in, each contradicting the last, and none seemed satisfactory. Suddenly, a military official interjected, Your Honor, I have an idea. Go on, the official prompted him. Your Honor, based on the footage, from what we observed, the beasts commanded by the young man seem more formidable than multiple missiles. Considering a cost-effective strategy, since he can control them, why can't we? Perhaps we should train our own beasts. The room buzzed with incredulity. Everyone stared, shock evident on their faces. Inside Kanraku's ship. Crunch! Crunch! The sound of crunching echoed as giant beasts feasted. Beside them, a small horse nibbled its food. Floyd, Kanraku, and even Blastwaz appeared stunned by the spectacle. Roar, this is incredible. Never have I tasted anything this delightful in my life. Horsa, I told you, right? This place is paradise. How about you stay with me, big fish? Roar, it's so tasty. Little sis, why does your meal smell better? Share some. Horsa, humph, this is mine. Eat your own. Roar, just one little bite. Horsa, no. Observing the sibling banter, Floyd and the others were at a loss. Blastoise pondered whether the poke block was indeed so delicious but held back, aware of his owner's and Floyd's presence. Floyd observed Gyarados' ravenous eating. The poke blocks, meant to last 2 weeks, seemed barely a single meal for the beast. The reason is that he just ate standard poke blocks with minimal energy, unlike the Horsa, Axew, and Dratini variants loaded with energy. A few dozen of those would suffice for them. Roar, if only my father could taste this. He'd love it. Blue Serpent San Kenrico was about to talk with him, and then. Roar, how dare you address me as a mere serpent, weak human. Blastoise. Roaoair, cough. How about Gyarados? Floyd offered. Gyarados? That does sound cool. Floyd-san, you have a knack for naming. Kenrico exclaimed. Roar, fine, I'll accept Gyarados. It sounds dignified. Since it's a decent name and your food is delicious, I'll forgive you, humans. Gyarados, could you share why you're here? You mentioned your father earlier, who is he? Floyd inquired. Roar, you think you can trick me? If I reveal my father, he'll surely punish me. How would your father find out if you don't inform him? Floyd countered. Roar, true, but why should I tell you? You're weak humans. What about more poke block as a reward? Floyd offered temptingly. Roar, just because your food is appealing, don't assume you can make me betray my father. I won't. Floyd turned to Horsa, how about you, Horsa? Tell me about your father. I'll reward you with a poke block. Horsa, don't worry, master. I'll share. Roar, little sis. Would you betray our father? Horsa, this tidbit isn't as valuable as good food. To let you know, our father is. Roar, wait. I'll also share, just give me some. The two siblings began to reveal their father's secrets in exchange for food. Chapter 36, Siblings Past. After listening to them, Floyd, Kenrico, and Blastoise now knew their origins. The reason why Floyd just saw Horsa on the side of the beach is because his brother Gyarados lost her, and Horsa, who didn't know what to do, kept wandering carefully on the sea until she reached the beach exhaustedly. Horsa, who was pampered and gets spoiled by her father and brother, has no survival skills and doesn't know how to find food. So she just lay at the side of the beach hoping many seafood would come to her, or maybe her brother could find her, but she actually smelt something delicious, and she met Floyd. As for Gyarados, he was actually scolded by his father saying don't ever come back if he didn't see his lost sister. So, since Gyarados was scolded, he traveled alone, threatening many sea creatures if they have seen his sister, and one day some sea creatures told him that they have seen the one he's looking for and told the ship, and this is how Gyarados appeared. As for their father, he was also Gyarados. They said that they were traveling randomly across the ocean, and rarely randomly saw humans, and if they saw one they would attack them, so they thought they were just weaklings, and it was no wonder compared to the other beasts who hated humans. This brother Gyarados' impressions to them is they were just weakling. As for Horsa, she seems has no bad impression to humans. On their mother, Horsa has no memories about her, and it seems she didn't even see her, and brother Gyarados seems to have just a bit of fragmented memories about her when he was young. All he remembers is she looks like Horsa, but bigger than her, that's it. As they talked happily, the atmosphere was getting better. Although brother Gyarados still talked arrogantly about how weak they were as a human, he had no harmful intentions. Floyd and Kenrico didn't care about it, and even Blastoise reduced his wariness about him. Roar, then what should I do? Father said I take you but you don't want to go. Gyarados looked at Horsa with a bit of dilemma thinking about his father. Horsa, no, 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 big fish, tell father I don't want to go back, this place should be where I was, it was paradise. Roar, yeah, paradise. Thinking of delicious food, Gyarados was entranced in his self-imagination as he started to drool. Roar, I don't want to go back. Horsa, then don't go back, just let father be alone, he can do it by himself. This rebel girl was savage. Roar, I also don't want to go. The food was delicious here. Roar, but you, if father hears you, you will be dead. Horsa, humph, anyways he's not here, and if he knows, the culprit should be you, big fish ouch. Floyd knocked her head lightly then looked at Gyarados and said, then how about letting your father come here, isn't it better? Yeah, isn't it better for him to come here? Kenriku was also delightful because the more Gyarados the more easier he can study rapidly about them. Roar, humph, you humans? If father sees you, you will be dead. Compared to Blastoise who is stronger? Floyd pointed at Blastoise. Roar, stronger? Of course, F father must be, stronger. Gyarados shivered to look at Blastoise in front, but of course, since he's proud and son, how could he praise the opponent? For sure his father must be stronger. Yes, it must be, right? But he hesitated a bit because he felt their strength was the same level, even this turtle was, no, impossible, how could? Father must be stronger. Gyarados thought. Then why you're hesitating? Floyd asked. Roar, humph, I admit their level was the same, but I'm confident my father was stronger. Blastoise hearing this Gyarados keeps bragging, Blastoise releases a fighting intent that he will challenge his father. Blastoise himself had also pride, how could willing to admit that the opponent he didn't fight was stronger, he wasn't convinced. Then let your father come, that way it's more easier. Floyd feels confident about Blastoise's strength because he has seen it by himself. Roar, fine, I will go now. Wait, didn't your father say if you didn't bring Horsa, you can't come back? Floyd hurriedly reminded. Hearing what Floyd said, Horsa became terrified. Horsa, master, I won't come back. Roar, yeah, you remind me, hey, little sis come back with me. Horsa, no, I won't go. Roar, if you won't come back, the father will kill me. Horsa, then just die. Roar, you. Floyd waved his hand for them to stop and said, sorry, but Horsa is my beast, I won't give him back. Roar, you weak human. You dare to say my sister is yours, that's my sister. Gyarados shouted and then he heard Blastoise on the other side. He regained his sanity, but still looked at Floyd angrily. Think about it. If you take your sister, then what's the purpose for you all to come back here? There will be no sense, right? Horsa, yeah, that's right, and we can't eat delicious food. Big fish, do you still want to eat that disgusting food because I don't? Roar, yes, it seemed reasonable, but what I'm gonna do? Father will kill me. System, spend 4,000 points for Gyarados breeding method. Ding! Congratulations, you've acquired Gyarados breeding method from the shop. Suddenly countless information appeared in Floyd's mind, whether the recipe for poke blocks making, massage technique, training, etc. But he can't take this much information, so he just focuses on poke block making for now. Then he took his berry blender, a Duran berry, Nomal berry and Janima berry that he took from Kanrika's storage yesterday. Floyd-san, what are you doing? Kanrika was confused about his actions. Roar, you weak human, you dare to ignore me? I'm still not finished talking, how dare you? Horsa, big fish, can you please shut up, master is making food. Roar, what, a food? You mean the food we ate earlier? Horsa, of course, you ignorant fool. Horsa looked at him with disdain. Upon hearing their conversation, Kanrika's curiosity piqued, and he approached Floyd. "Floyd-san, is this the poke block you mentioned?" He had long wondered about Floyd's technique, especially since he noticed all Pokémon seemed to enjoy it. He observed the machine Floyd held with intrigue, anticipating his first glimpse into how Floyd crafted it. Floyd first added the Durin berry and Topo berry to the blender. The Durin berry possessed a strong bitter taste with a hint of sourness, while the Topo berry had a balanced blend of spicy, sweet, and sour flavors. Floyd's strategy was to use the dry flavor to neutralize the bitter taste of the Durin berry, retaining only its sour notes. There are 5 primary flavor categories: spicy, sour, bitter, sweet, and dry. When combined in a poke block, some flavors complement each other, while others conflict. For instance, spicy clashes with both sour and dry. Sour opposes both bitter and spice. Bitter doesn't blend well with either sweet or sour, and dry conflicts with both sweet and spicy. The Topo berry, with its 3 conflicting flavors, is particularly challenging to handle, especially when one needs to mix it with another berry that might have dual, triple, quadruple, or even quintuple flavor profiles. Such combinations can quickly turn chaotic, and typically only those at an intermediate breeder level or higher can masterfully manage them. This complexity was a significant factor in Floyd's challenges as he tried to progress from a novice to an intermediate level. While in the game, one might press 4 buttons to craft a poke block, real-life situations could vary, sometimes requiring only 3 or even 2 button presses. It's all about adjustments. Pressing all 4 buttons aims for a balanced poke block. However, if 5 conflicting flavors are blended in balance, the outcome may lack any distinct taste, resulting in a bland or even flavorless product. Chapter 37, Gyarados Departed, Bonus Chapter Reward. Kenriku and the others surrounded Floyd, watching him operate the berry blender. Although this machine looked simple with only 4 buttons, they obviously couldn't understand why he was pressing them in that particular sequence. It was truly confusing. Floyd, on the other hand, was already using 70% into the simulation because what he was creating was an intermediate age poke block. After pressing a complex series of buttons, ones that seemingly only he and the simulation could understand, he successfully neutralized the bitter taste with the sweet one, causing both flavors to disappear. What remained were the spicy and sour flavors, prompting him to immediately add normal, which has a slight flavor of both spicy and sour. This poke block combination was for water, normal, and dragon types. The reason there was no flying type included was because he was working on an intermediate poke block, which only allowed the use of 3 berries. Given his current novice breeder level, Floyd felt he wasn't equipped to handle a more intricate blend of 4 berries, a feat reserved for the advanced stages. This advanced stage would require him to multiply the price by 3 and increase the simulation percentage by 5 times, something he couldn't afford at the moment. Another stipulation when using the simulation was that the poke block being crafted should contain at least 1 dragon-type berry, otherwise, the simulation wouldn't activate. With the berries Floyd currently had, he possessed only Grippa and Lum of the flying type. Adding Grippa might have been an option, but its flavor was slightly subdued. He was reluctant to use the Lum berry for poke blocks because, even though it nearly encompassed all flavors, it was somewhat underwhelming. He preferred using Lum berry to make powder due to its healing effects, and in his view, it would be a waste to use it for poke blocks, even though he occasionally did sometimes. That's why, given his current resources and situation, these 3 types of berries seemed the most appropriate for crafting poke blocks. The main reason he could craft a normal poke block for Pokémon not related to dragons was because he made them on his own, without the aid of the simulation. Floyd had other motives too. He had his sights set on the Gyarados because this particular Gyarados was still quite young, maybe just more than a year old, and his level was in lower than his Axew. Every Magikarp that evolves into a Gyarados is undoubtedly talented, even if they're somewhat hot-tempered. Not every Magikarp has the potential to evolve, and Floyd's typical method of scanning their stats often revealed the same moves: Splash and Tackle. Was that indicative of talent? If one Magikarp only knew Splash, and another knew both splash and tackle, was the latter more gifted? During his 8-month journey, Floyd had observed numerous Magikarps with these move sets, so how could he truly know their talent? It was also impossible to judge them based on egg moves since Magikarps don't possess any. Finding a truly talented Magikarp was akin to looking for a needle in a haystack. In many ways, it felt like a lottery, a gamble based on luck. Even finding a pseudo-legendary Pokémon might be easier due to the variety of moves and egg moves to judge their abilities. The same couldn't be said for Magikarp. Floyd's current dilemma was that he knew he couldn't possibly defeat the Gyarados at the moment. Even his strongest Pokémon, Axew, which was a level higher than the Gyarados, wouldn't stand a chance. How could a base stage Pokémon compete with a fully evolved one? The disparity in power was simply too vast. However, if Axew were to evolve into Fracture, the odds might change. Floyd was well aware that Axew could have evolved already, and had it not been for his own insistence on delaying it, the evolution would have taken place long ago. Some minutes later, Floyd produced 2 distinct sets of Poke Blocks. They were primarily blue and grey with hints of gold. This was the intermediate age grade Poke Block suited for Gyarados. Crafting them nearly depleted all his points, leaving him with a mere 70. And, for the sake of clarity in the system, I've modified certain terms. The term intermediate Poke Block and others like it have been changed to customized first stage breeding method for 1000 points, customized second stage breeding method for 2000 points, and customized fully evolved breeding method for 4000 points. Each category encompasses massaging techniques, training methods, and Poke Block recipes specific to the given Pokémon. After taking out the Poke Block, Floyd threw one to Gyarados. "Here, try it." Gyarados immediately caught one with his mouth, then roar, "Delicious! Oh my goodness! It's delicious! It's even more delicious than the previous one." Gyarados couldn't help but shout with a loud roar. Even some Pokémon observing them were frightened. Kanraku, Floyd, and Blastoise covered their ears in response. Bianca, Yvonne, Suzuki, and Jonathan, who had been sleeping, were startled awake. What happened? Where am I? Jonathan murmured, barely opening his eyes. That explosion! Where's the professor? Suzuki wondered aloud. Wartortle, murmured a voice nearby. Suzuki then found herself embraced by her Wartortle. Did we survive? She recalled the loud explosion earlier and wondered about their fate. Bianca and Yvonne, now awake, were greeted by Swablu's tweet-tweet sound and Spinarak, who hesitated a bit before approaching Yvonne. So, we survived? Yvonne asked. Where's the professor? Everyone inquired. Earlier, as Gyarados had made the loud noise, Horsa, feeling irritated, used her tail to kick Gyarados. Horsa, you're so noisy. Roar, but it's delicious. Floyd removed his hands from his ears and smiled helplessly. He hadn't anticipated such a reaction from Gyarados. And, naturally, the Poke Block tasted excellent because it was specifically crafted for Gyarados. With the new method Floyd had acquired, he had gained insight into Gyarados, understanding their behaviors, preferences, and tastes. Based on Gyarados' eating habits, Floyd deduced that this particular one favored spicy and sour flavors, which is why he had customized the Poke Block for him. Observing this, Blastoise grew curious. He sampled one of the Poke Blocks and immediately spat it out, disliking the taste. Confused, he looked between Gyarados and Floyd. Seeing his reaction, Floyd explained, this Poke Block was customized specifically for Gyarados' palate. When we return, I'll make a customized one just for you. Blastoise's eyes lit up, and he nodded in understanding. Floyd then presented another set of Poke Blocks to Gyarados. Roar, is this for me? It's for your father, Floyd replied with a smile. Roar, father? Are you trying to bribe my father? It's not about me bribing him, Floyd explained. Since you can't bring your sister, at least give this to your father to appease him. Roar, you're using me to trick my father. Gyarados grew irritated and sent a threatening look Floyd's way but hesitated to attack due to the presence of the formidable Blastoise. It's not a trick, Floyd continued. Consider it a peace offering. When you return without your sister, this will help lessen any potential punishment. Roar, you might have a point. Once you're back, I'll prepare even more of these for you, Floyd promised, throwing another poke block towards Gyarados. Roar, at least you offer these. Gyarados caught the poke block but didn't eat it right away since he was already full. The intermediate poke block he had eaten earlier had been filling enough. Seeing that Gyarados seemed appeased, Floyd handed over another poke block intended for Gyarados' father. This one contained similar berries, but Floyd balanced them differently. He didn't know the older Gyarados' preferences, so he erred on the side of caution. Though it lacked a dry flavor, Pokémon often enjoy multiple flavors. This poke block was crafted as a backup. Despite having slightly less energy than the previous poke block, it was still substantial and was another intermediate poke block. Gyarados caught it and gave them a final look, his gaze lingering on his mischievous sister, Horsa. Horsa, goodbye, big fish. Though Horsa often teased him, she felt a pang of sadness. After all, it was her elder brother who had always looked after her. Roar. With that, Gyarados departed towards the ship. Chapter 38, Pokémon's Abilities Assumption. Floyd looked towards Gyarados and thought, when the time they will meet again, he must defeat him. It's a pity I really want him to stay but it much better to wait, our harvest this time was already big. Kenrico looked where Gyarados departed and sighed helplessly. Professor, the next time we meet him maybe there will be a big battle with his father, you must be prepared, Floyd reminded. Don't worry, I fully trust my partner, right partner, we can do it. Kenrico patted his shell. Blastoise nodded with some expectation. He really wants to fight that father. Floyd just rolled his eyes, this professor guy didn't even know how to command his Pokémon. But he also admitted that this Blastoise was really strong. By the way, Floyd-san, there's something I wanted to ask you. Kenrico looked at him directly. What is it, Professor? Floyd said. I'm quite curious about what happened earlier because I really don't understand how my partner who was severely injured suddenly got healed instantly. Kenrico was already itchy to ask this question earlier if not only for Gyarados' sudden appearance. You mean that, Professor, didn't you realize it? Floyd asked, pretending innocently. Realize what? What do you mean? Kenrico asked. Wartortle should be the evolution of Blastoise, right, Professor? Floyd asked. Oh, you realized that? Kenrico smiled and said. It's perfectly obvious, their appearance were same. Floyd said. So, is there something wrong, is there a connection? Kenrico asked. I noticed yesterday when Horsa using that raining moves and accidentally hit some Wartortle who was controlling the ship, their expression suddenly became better as if the fatigue suddenly were gone, so, I let her test it to some other Wartortles, while some were not affected, not other get affected. I tried to other beasts but it seems it was not affected at all, Floyd added confusingly. Horsa on his side looked at him confusingly. Did we that? Why, I didn't know. Anyway, let's pretend that I did that. To be honest, I just bet on my guts earlier, but I didn't expect it really is, Floyd said. So, it is. Kenrico, why he felt it was not reasonable, as if there was something missing. And there's another that I discovered. When they were in the stage of being weak, it seemed there was an energy that surged into their body that made them strong and surpass their original strength. Floyd didn't care if he doubted him, he already gave him the hints of having the possibility of Pokémon posses and ability, the rest is for him to know. Floyd just wanted to hasten the progress of the Pokémon in this world while staying low-key and not being in the limelight. Much better to give all of this credit to a passionate guy like Kenrico while he was silently reaps the benefits. Blastoise. Blastoise on the other side nodded and told Kenrico his experience. and it seemed as Floyd said, that every time he felt he was weak, he became strong suddenly, and it happened to him many times over the 4 years that he and Kanraku got together. He also told his feelings when he felt a bit unconscious. It seemed there was a watery feeling coming to inside him that made him feel better. Really? It seemed I need to study this, it seemed I overlooked something here. I knew this Warturtle for more than years but I didn't noticed it, but you who just saw him a day already noticed it. Floyd-san, should I say, you are a genius? How about help me studying research after we landed in Takihama Island, Kanraku suggested. For sure, Professor, I will certainly help you, but let me apologize because I'm not going to be researcher. My dream is to be together with my beasts, please pardon me for rejecting. Floyd bowed down. No, you don't need to apologize to me, actually, it's I who should be apologizing to you. I've burdened you with responsibilities you shouldn't have had to shoulder, like caring for the beasts. Even saving my partner's life wasn't your duty, yet I kept imposing on you earlier. I'm truly sorry for my past behavior. Honto ni sumimasen, arigato gozaimasu. Kanraku bowed deeply in apology. You saved me yesterday, and I assisted you. How about we consider it even? Floyd responded, shaking his head with a smile. The help we received from you carries far greater weight than what you received from us, Kanraku began, but Floyd raised his hand to interrupt him. Professor, allow me a moment. It wasn't just about saving me, but also countless beasts. If it were only for my sake, I wouldn't have taken the initiative. You put both yourself and Blastwaz in danger to save hundreds of creatures. Don't belittle your efforts. I believe many of the beasts you rescued are deeply grateful. I shudder to think what might have become of them without you. Floyd admitted himself that he had always been selfish. Over the past 8 months, he could have helped many Pokémon but chose to not do anything instead to avoid trouble, focusing solely on his and his Pokémon's strength. He preferred to let events unfold naturally rather than take action. If he hadn't come across that flyer about someone aiding Pokémon, he might still be in Maharlika, potentially falling prey to the Blood Smoke Association's hunters. While he felt gratitude towards Kanraku, part of his appreciation was driven by self-interest. Meeting Kanraku enabled him to survive, to get many varieties of berry, to meet Gumis and Gyarados, and especially to stay under the radar while the professor took the spotlight. Magby. Odaj. Eebai. Machub. Various Pokémon voices chimed in, expressing their heartfelt gratitude to Professor Kanraku. Overwhelmed by the outpouring of appreciation, Kanraku wiped away tears. The show of gratitude fueled his determination and reaffirmed his purpose. Seeing the joy in the Pokémon's faces, he was certain he was on the right path. Blastwaz added, patting his shoulder supportively. Suddenly, Jonathan and others appeared. Professor, did we make it? Suzuki inquired. Yes, and it's all thanks to Floyd. You should express your gratitude, Kanraku confirmed. Professor, who shouted earlier? Was it the dragon? Jonathan questioned. That dragon has already departed, Floyd replied, understanding Jonathan's reference to Gyarados. You just let it go? It's such a remarkable beast, the most majestic I've ever seen. Jonathan protested. Do you want to capture it? Floyd queried. Absolutely. Given its size, it must be powerful, Jonathan asserted. Strength isn't determined by size, Floyd countered. It's irrelevant, I want it, Jonathan insisted. I'd like that one as well, Floyd added. You have plenty already, Jonathan said, pointing accusingly. I still desire to have one more, Floyd admitted. You're greedy, Jonathan declared. Yes, I am, Floyd agreed with a nod. Enough bickering. Professor, can you fill us in on what happened earlier? Suzuki interjected, turning to Kanraku. Of course, let's discuss it indoors, Kanraku suggested with a smile, leading the way into the reception. Floyd, the way you directed those beasts was impressive. They even managed to deflect numerous missiles, Jonathan commented admiringly. When Pokémon unite, their strength is limitless. That's why size isn't an indicator of power. Did you see? They may be small, but they defended against a barrage of missiles. So, if we had larger Pokémon, they could fend off even more missiles. Sigh, you just don't get it, Floyd sighed in exasperation. They quickly made their way to the ship's reception room. Chapter 39, It's Decreasing. Inside the reception room, Kenriku and Floyd recounted the events that took place after the others had passed out. Upon hearing the tale, everyone, except Kenriku and Floyd, turned to look at Blastoise with an expression of awe. Defeating 5 attack helicopters in one shot? A rapid healing of life-threatening injury? Surprisingly, Floyd, you can come up with something like that. Jonathan mused. He wondered if there was anything about Pokémon that Floyd didn't know. Some even speculated that Floyd might have more knowledge than Kenriku. If it's F. Floyd, then, yes, Bianca commented in a hushed tone. Yvonne gave Floyd a once-over, nodding. A sense of relief washed over him, thankful he hadn't done anything rash yesterday. Blushing from the continuous praises, Floyd touched his head. Actually, it was just a bet. I wasn't even 50% sure the plan would work. I'm surprised it did. So, you might say it was just luck. Suzuki gazed at him with gratitude. Luck can be a part of strength. If not for your luck, my Wartortle's father would have died. Indeed, Floyd, you've been exceptional. We owe you big time this round, said Jonathan, wearing a sly grin. He noticed that Floyd always reddened when showered with compliments. The chorus of appreciation continued. Yes, we truly owe him this time, thank you, Floyd. Please, enough, Floyd sighed in embarrassment. It seemed everyone was enjoying the moment, teasing Floyd. Who would have thought that, having met only a few days ago, they would become so close? With the recent discussions about berries and their own experiences, everyone felt they had discovered a previously unknown realm of knowledge concerning berries and Pokémon. Slowly, a realization dawned that perhaps Pokémon weren't all bad. Floyd's decisions, however, raised questions. I'm a bit puzzled, Floyd. Why did you give 2 berries for those little slimy creatures? Even if they're yours, it seems a bit extravagant, Jonathan remarked with a hint of confusion. Hearing this, Kenriku and others take a look at him. At this, all eyes turned to Floyd. Honestly, I'm not entirely sure. I felt a connection to them, as if we were related. But you're right, I might have been impulsive. 1 berry should have been enough. I apologize. Floyd thought his act might have drawn unnecessary attention. He wanted to reward the man for finding 5 gummies but overlooked the potential consequences of his generosity. He also hinted them about his dragon power, thinking he couldn't keep it a secret forever. Revealing a bit now might stave off suspicions later. Jonathan laughed at the notion. You and beasts, related? That's the funniest thing I've ever heard. And to think you wasted 2 berries. If I'd known, you could have given it to me, Yvonne added. He still had 2 berries in his backpack, so he too felt that Floyd had been overly generous. But in the end, those were Floyd's berries, earned by his own abilities. The others murmured their agreement, but Kenriku sensed something deeper in Floyd's words. Considering Floyd's past actions, other than him, it appeared he was the only one who truly treated Pokémon with genuine kindness. Could it be, was it possible Floyd was like him? Kenriku remembered that Floyd seemed to understand Pokémon, though it's limited to some extent. And when Kenriku had revealed his own abilities, Floyd hadn't even batted an eye, as if it were a normal occurrence. An epiphany struck Kenriku. Perhaps Floyd possessed a power similar to his. No wonder, he felt a similar vibe on him, like a long-lost friend that hadn't met for a long time. But for now, he chose to remain silent. Some powers, after all, are best kept hidden to avoid unnecessary troubles. It's not that he couldn't trust everyone, but there will always be people who covet it once they find out. After hours of discussion, everyone dispersed to their respective rooms. Floyd entered his room, followed by Axu, Horsa, Dratini, the 5 Gummis, and Munchlax. Floyd felt utterly helpless with this Pokémon. Even since after learning that he could prepare delicious food, Munchlax seemed to become adamant about staying with him. Floyd had clearly stated that he might not be able to care for him properly, but this creature's persistence to follow was unwavering. The system in his mind continuously reminded him, "Don't take him, he's not a dragon." Yet, how could he respond to this Pokémon? Could he say, "Sorry Munchlax, I can't train you because you're not a dragon," especially when the very existence of dragons was not known? Floyd began his routine preparations, but Munchlax's insatiable appetite posed a challenge. The 2-week ration he had prepared vanished quickly, prompting him to prepare another 2-week supply just for Munchlax. Gratefully, Professor Kanraku sponsored Floyd's supplies, offering a variety of berries especially suited for normal-type Pokémon. The only thing Professor Kanraku lacked was berries which have an effects, which Floyd found less valuable compared to berries need for Poke Block ingredients. Seeing Munchlax shed tears while eating, and observing its emaciated frame, Floyd's heart swelled with compassion. He could only imagine how much this little Pokémon had suffered, perhaps even enduring days without food on his previous owner. Knowing the natural appetites of Pokémon like Munchlax and Snorlax, Floyd could gauge the extent of this creature's previous hardships. Then he smiled as he watched them eating. Floyd always found himself smiling as he watched his Pokémon eat. For reasons unknown, he felt an overwhelming joy seeing Pokémon relish their food, a sentiment he only experienced aboard this ship. Back in his homeland, he grappled with trust issues, both with humans and beasts. Although he dreamed of a better world for Pokémon, he believed achieving it alone might take decades. However, with Professor Kanraku's influence, Floyd felt invigorated, even occasionally taking the initiative to assist. Reflecting on this, Floyd wondered if maybe he wasn't as really selfish as he previously thought, though it was a bit. If things went according to plan, his goals could be achieved in just a few years, a thought that made his heart race with excitement and anticipation. Turning his attention to the 5 Gummis, Floyd pondered why they had appeared on Maydeo. Their habitat might be the reason, but he wanted to understand more. Observing their cautious demeanor around him, he refrained from asking too many questions, fearing it would make them even more wary. Unlike his Pokémon such as Axu, Horsa, and Dratini, these Gummis had endured a lot, resulting in a deep-seated distrust of humans. Even Axu and Dratini, who had witnessed human cruelty, weren't as traumatized since they hadn't been captured. Floyd's intervention had altered their course for the better. He understood that earning the Gummis' trust would require time and patience. Floyd believed that one day, these Gummis would approach him on their own accord. They were among the first batch in his breeding plan. Contemplating this, Floyd noticed something unexpected: their Hisuian percentage had decreased by 1%. In the end, what happened? Chapter 40, Molting. Is it a coincidence that all 5 suddenly decreased by 1%? That's impossible. There has to be a problem, but where? Floyd frowned as he contemplatively looked at the 5 Gummis. Feeling something weird, the leader Gummi looked up, happened to catch Floyd's gaze, and he shivered, stopping his eating. Seeing this reaction, Floyd woke up from his thinking and realized he might be misunderstood. He then smiled, approached them, and said, "I'm thinking about changing your food to a better one." Gummi. The leader, along with the other 4, seemed puzzled. Change to another one? Isn't this one delicious? Why change? There's actually something more delicious than this, but wait until tomorrow for me to change it, Floyd hurriedly explained. Floyd suspected that the problem might be due to the poke block he created. The recipe was similar to that of Dratini's, combining dragon and normal, which matched their taste. But he wondered if the dragon attribute might be causing the decrease, considering that a non-Hisuian Gudra was a single type. He might search for a berry with steel attributes in Kanrika's storage tomorrow. Relieved that it was a misunderstanding, the leader Gumi sighed, fearing that Floyd intended to harm them. Floyd then released Dragonite and began his treatment. September 1, 2005. 11:30 am. A disturbance erupted on the ship. Many Pokémon were surrounding a little blue snake-like creature, Dratini, who seemed to be struggling. Tweet tweet, little brother, you can do it. Machop, do your best, little brother. Bye, we support you, little brother. Mary Eep, what's happening to him? Dratini felt overwhelmed by the continuous little brother chants. He glared at the primary instigator, a blue cotton bird. Earlier, during his training, Dratini felt something happening to his body. Swablu was the first to observe his discomfort and called other Pokémon for help. Tweet, help! There's something wrong with little brother. Machub? Who's little brother? Tweet, it's him. Swablu pointed at the struggling Dratini. Machub, what happened? I'll help. Tweet, something's wrong with little brother. Magby? Who's little brother? Tweet, it's him, Dratini. Magby, what's the issue? I'll help. Swablu then went to every Pokémon, ensuring they all knew Dratini was the little brother. What's happening? Floyd and others rushed to the scene. Tweet, Godflow, brother Floyd, there's something wrong with little brother. Swablu corrected herself, recalling she shouldn't call him God Floyd. Let me see. Floyd approached Dratini, who had already guessed his condition, and the system's status confirmed his suspicion. Pokémon, Dratini, molting. Floyd's Dratini had the shed skin ability, which means it can molt. Note, I merged shed skin and real-life molting definition, although they signify different things. To Floyd's surprise, his Dratini was molting quickly. The system indicated a newborn Dratini typically required a month or so to molt, but his Dratini took only less than a week. Usually, a newborn Dratini should wait about half a month before starting training. But, due to the system's dragon power and Dratini's hard work, this period shortened. This molting, I've seen it in other creatures, mostly insects and some reptilian kinds like serpents. Floyd-san, your beast might belong to the serpent type, Kanriku remarked. Nodded, Floyd pondered, but serpent again. Hearing that word again, he sighed, then he shared some knowledge, initiating a discussion between the two. The Pokémon continued cheering for Dratini. Blushing with embarrassment, Dratini glared at Swablu. He thought, just wait until I get out of here, I'll remember this grudge. Upon meeting his gaze, Swablu shivered and immediately hid. A few minutes later, Dratini began moving his body, shining brilliantly as pieces of his old skin began shedding. He emerged anew. Machub. Little brother, you did it. Magby, congratulations little brother. Flaoffi, little brother, you did it. Bye, little brother seems a bit taller now. You did it. Floyd exclaimed, with Kanriku following close behind. Floyd checked his stats and to his surprise, Dratini had gained 2 levels. Pokémon, Dratini. Level, 11. Type, Dragon. Ability, Shed Skin. Moves. Beginner level, Extreme Speed, Dragon Breath, Wrap, Twister, Thunder Wave. Genetic Skill, Extreme Speed, Dragon Breath. Dratini was close to reaching level 10 when Floyd last checked. Now, having molted successfully, he'd leveled up twice. His level was also nearing that of the most pampered girl on Floyd's team. Given time, he would catch up with her. From a distance, Horsa shivered, sensing her owner might be watching her, but maybe it was just her imagination. Moreover, Dratini's body had grown slightly longer. Floyd felt proud of the progress made in just a week. Dratini had also learned a new move, Thunder Wave. Floyd decided he'd update Dratini's training plan upon their return. However, why did Dratini look so angry? Floyd wondered. Suddenly, Dratini used extreme speed, seemingly searching for someone. "Eo, Swablu! You scoundrel, where are you?" Hearing this, both Floyd and Kanraku couldn't help but smile. Bianca, meanwhile, collected the shed skin from Dratini, inspecting its properties. This skin is elastic and tough. It would be perfect for making durable clothes when combined with certain berries. "It's a shame there's so little of it," she murmured. Bianca-san, you know how to make clothes?" Kanraku expressed his surprise, and even Floyd looked at her in astonishment. I know, a little," Bianca responded, feeling overwhelmed by their attention. She had always had low self-esteem, believing her knowledge wasn't on par with the two in front of her. "Using berries in making clothes? You knew about berries all along and didn't say anything?" Floyd questioned in surprise. "What? Berries again? Bianca-san, can berries be used in making clothes?" Kanraku's researcher instincts ignited as he intently studied her. Thi, this, why yes, they see can," Bianca stammered, feeling the weight of Kanraku's intense gaze. "Professor, relax. Look at her, you're making her nervous," Floyd interjected with a sigh. Yes, Gamanazai, Bianca-san. I'm just astonished at the various uses of berries. First, I was amazed by Floyd's techniques, and now you say they can be used in clothing? The result must be unique, right?" Kanraku inquired. I can't say, it's unique, but it's definitely more durable," Bianca replied nervously, still on the edge of stuttering despite Floyd's help. Before Kanraku could probe further, a crew member's shout interrupted them. "We're approaching Kame Village." Chapter 41, Arrival. Takihama Island, Kame Village. 12 p.m. Suddenly, a large pack of Pokémon appeared, waiting for them, especially the Squirtles, who were waiting for their parents, brothers and sisters. There were also hundreds of different varieties of Pokémon that kept jumping and waving at them. Seeing the welcoming greeting from the Pokémon, Kanraku felt touched. He waved his hand and greeted them happily. These were the Pokémon he had gathered from Longdong, Joa, and Rongzan. The change in their demeanor was incomparable to the first time he saw them, when they were still scared and afraid. Many Pokémon on the ship also looked on in amazement, seeing so many Pokémon appear. Their eyes shone brightly with surprise and expectation. A few minutes later, Kanraku's ship had already docked on the island. Many Squirtles were about to rush forward when 5 Blastwazes shouted in warning. They quickly stopped, looking disappointed. Kanraku was the first to disembark. As he did, many Squirtles rushed toward him, causing him to fall as he hugged them. Other baby Pokémon looked enviously at the Squirtles. They too wanted to rush over but hesitated. Kanraku beckoned them over happily, and they rushed to hug him. This scene was so cute that even Floyd, Bianca, Jonathan, and others felt warmth as they watched and also wanted to join in the hugging. The captain and the crew members of the ship greeted those waiting on the sides. Suzuki Akiko also disembarked and was immediately swarmed by a group of Squirtles, much like Kanraku. A few seconds later, she stood up, looking a bit embarrassed, and greeted the grey-haired old man, "Father. It's good that you all came back safe," the old man expressed with relief. Okarinase, esteemed teachers, other young teenagers also greeted her and Kanraku. "Arigato gozaimasu, Yamada-san, Izawa-san, Nakamura-san, and Anu-san. It seems you are all well," Suzuki-san smiled and greeted them. "Ha ha ha, Kanikawa Village Chief, Yamada-san, Izawa-san, Nakamura-san, and Anu-san. As you can see, I'm back. Mission completed." Kanraku laughed as he gave them a thumbs up. Yet, you came back. Otherwise, if something happened to my daughter, my soul would haunt you from the underworld, the village chief said sternly. Ha ha ha, how could that happen? Kanraku remembered their dangerous adventures and quickly changed the subject. Village chief, how's the situation here in my absence? Most villagers still can't accept these beasts, but they're getting used to them. There were also some conflicts, but they were minor and have been resolved. As for your Gaijin students, some grew impatient, and we were at a loss. However, it's better now, they've been waiting for you. The village chief recalled the challenging past 2 months, his worry for his daughter evident. Gaijin equals foreigner. Village chief, I've caused you much trouble this time. I'm truly sorry. Understanding the implications, Kanraku expressed his gratitude by bowing deeply. Well, that's in the past now. By the way, are these the last batch? The village chief inquired, glancing at the ship with its curious foreign passengers and beasts. I'll call them down, Kanraku responded, signaling to the passengers. Floyd, Bianca, Yvonne, and Jonathan descended, followed by a large group of Pokémon. Kanraku instructed the 6 Blastoises and including his own partner and Ward Ortlace to guide these new Pokémon. They nodded in understanding. Floyd, Bianca, and Ivan's Pokémon stayed close to their trainers, with Munchlax trailing behind Floyd. The village chief greeted Floyd and the others, introducing himself with Suzuki Akiko translating. Floyd and others then turned their attention to the 4 teenagers, who simply greeted them with a hello. Floyd and his group nodded in response. The group then began to make their way into the village. In the village chief and some villagers observed the newcomers with curiosity. They soon returned to their tasks, offering greetings before moving on. Having been away from her father for some time, Suzuki Akiko took a temporary leave from the group to spend time with him, bidding the others goodbye. Yamada-san, and you 3, I heard from the village chief that they all have been in trouble, especially with the foreigners. Didn't I assign you a task to handle that? As they walked, Kanraku questioned them, focusing particularly on the tall man, Yamada. Kyuju, we did offer some help, Yamada admitted hesitantly. Really? Kanraku replied skeptically. Oh, of course, yes, Yamada murmured, avoiding Kanraku's gaze. Aizawa. Kanraku addressed the petite woman with fair skin beside him. Aizawa paused, standing nervously upon hearing her name. Is it true? Kanraku inquired, his gaze piercing, which made Aizawa even more anxious. We genuinely did some help, she stammered, her voice faltering with each word. What kind of help? Kanraku probed. Aizawa's face turned crimson, struggling for words. Kyuju, I must confess, we merely assisted the village chief. Communicating with foreigners is challenging. I sincerely apologize. Please punish me. A rotund man named Nakamura interjected. Nakamura! Yamada exclaimed in exasperation. It's best to be honest. Kyuju and Sensei would eventually find out, Nakamura added. Why is it hard to communicate? Kanraku wondered aloud. Kyuju, it's due to the language barrier, Inu, with his narrow face, remarked with a sigh. But didn't Suzuki-san teach you? You've been responding correctly. Why can't you communicate with them? Kanraku persisted. Kyuju, speaking to you and Sensei is different from speaking with them. We feel immense pressure, Yamada confessed. Kyuju, every time they addressed me, I felt so overwhelmed that I would forget my words, Aizawa added sheepishly. Kanraku sensed the atmosphere growing tense. All right, we'll discuss this later. For now, let's head to the base, he said, noting Floyd and the others, who couldn't understand their conversation, were still present. Come on, let's move, Kanraku urged, eager to change the subject. Tisk, tisk. A few minutes later, they approached a mountain distanced from the village. Here, they encountered Pokémon observing them. After greeting the creatures, they entered a garden filled with various berries suitable for poke blocks: raspberry, blueberry, nannaberry, elanberry, pomegberry, tomato berry, and more. They also saw some berries who has healing effects like oran berry, figgy berry, wiki berry, mango berry, aguaf berry, etc. Floyd paused, taking in the wondrous view of the berry varieties. This garden was a paradise for a breeder like him. Axew, Dratini, Horsa, Munchlax, and the 5 Gummis were equally astounded. Horsa and Munchlax seemed ready to venture forth, but Floyd held them back. The students observed Floyd and his Pokémon with confusion. Understanding their perplexity, Kanraku addressed Floyd. "Floyd-san, do you like what you see?" "Yes, Professor, this truly is a paradise for me. May I collect some berries? I assure you, in return, I'll share my methods with you, such as beast treatments, making healing powder, and crafting poke blocks," Floyd offered. "Of course. However, we should proceed to the base for now. It's risky to gather berries at the moment due to some beasts guarding it. Later, I'll request their permission." "Don't worry," Kanraku explained. "Understood, Professor," Floyd acknowledged, aware of the observing Pokémon, which was why he restrained Horsa and Munchlax. The group then continued their journey. Chapter 42, To the Beast's Sanctuary. Floyd and others saw a large, traditional luxury neon wooden house with a big Squirtle's head crest in front, and it was drawn cute. After all, what do you expect from the people of Neon? When it comes to sketching, they excel. Floyd, Jonathan, Bianca, and Yvonne were astonished by what they saw. What they noticed here is that most of the village houses were primarily made of wood, but the house in front of them was the largest wooden house they had ever seen. "Is this our base?" "Professor, you are really rich," Jonathan exclaimed, noting the grandeur of the house. His father's house didn't even compare. "This isn't mine. It's an abandoned house. After the tragedy that occurred 5 years ago, many houses became abandoned, like this one, especially given its proximity to a forest, making it prone to beast invasions," Kanraku explained. "But, since no one wanted to live here, I renovated it. Now it's going to be our base." In front, there was a nameplate displaying the AAA letters with a Squirtle logo. "Aizawa-san, call that kid," Kanraku instructed. Aizawa responded and pressed something on the nameplate. A few moments later, a voice of kid came from the nameplate. "Moshi Moshi, it's Suzuki Ryota." "Who's calling?" "Ryota-kun, it's me, Aizawa," she replied. "Aizawa-ne-san? Is that you? You're back. Where's Shishao? Shishao, are you there?" The boy, Ryota, sounded excited. "Who are you calling Shishao, kid? I haven't accepted you as my disciple yet," Kanraku responded with a hint of annoyance. "You, how come you not accept me? You're destined to be my aunt's husband, you have to accept me, otherwise, I'll start calling you uncle," Ryota puffed unwillingly. Kanraku, blushed, replied, "Cough cough, can you stop spouting nonsense? Open the gate. We have guests. Don't embarrass me." The 4 disciples tried not to laugh at the exchange. "Foreigners again? Humph, as if they could understand our language well enough to know if you were shamed," Ryota retorted. "Do you want me to spank?" Kanraku was about to speak but was cut off as the gate opened. "Everyone, I apologize for that. This child can be quite rude. Please, come in," Kanraku said, addressing Floyd and the others. "It's no problem," Floyd responded, rolling his eyes thinking to himself, "as if we fully understood what you're saying." Upon entering, Kanraku and his students removed their shoes and took slippers. "This area is called the Jenkin. Please remove your shoes on this wooden pad. Here are slippers for each of you," Kanraku explained. Having been pre-informed, Floyd and the others followed suit, even cleaning their Pokémon before proceeding inside. As they moved forward, Kenriku introduced various aspects of their culture. The house's vastness was evident. It was a single-story structure but extremely spacious. Floyd estimated it to be over 1,500 square meters. Despite the lack of air conditioning, it was quite chilly. Floyd held the 4 shivering Gumis, while horses sleeping at the top of his head. Axu and the leader Gumi tried to withstand the cold. Munchlax was unaffected, but Dratini, not wanting to be held by Floyd, crawled on his own, shivering from the cold. Suddenly, a sound came from a box in the tatami mat room, and it opened. "Shishao, I'm here." Out popped a boy, around 10 years old, with chubby cheeks. "Are these the new foreign guests?" "Hello, foreigners. My name is Suzuki Ryota," Ryota greeted Floyd and the others in slightly broken English. "So cute." Bianca wanted to pinch Ryota's cheeks, but she felt too embarrassed to do so. "Suzuki? Boy, are you Suzuki Akiko's little brother?" Jonathan asked quickly. "Me, I. Ryota paused, seemingly at a loss for words. "This little brat is her nephew. Don't mind him, he's still practicing his English." "Come on, brat, show me the way," Kenriku explained, giving Ryota a light spank. "It hurts, Shishao." "You're bad," Ryota protested, rubbing his behind. "Stop talking nonsense and move," Kenriku urged. "Humph, all right, come and follow me," Ryota said with a pout, entering the box. "Follow us," directed Kenriku, as he too entered the box. Everyone took turns entering, using a wall ladder to descend. "This feels really mysterious." "It's exciting," Jonathan remarked with anticipation. Minutes later, they emerged in a different setting. Unlike the previous house with its Eastern wooden style, the interior here resembled a long, narrow pathway lined with railings. The temperature felt warmer than the chilly area above. "Here are your shoes," Kenriku said, presenting the shoes they had removed earlier. Then he and his 4 students started to wear their shoes. "How did they get here?" Jonathan exclaimed in surprise. "They were delivered. Remember placing your shoes on the wooden shoe rack? It has a function to move here," Kenriku explained with a smile. "No wonder they're here, so high-tech," Floyd mused. They put on their shoes and continued onward, eventually climbing another wall ladder. When they reached the top, they found themselves on a street surrounded by trees. "Nay-ah-ah," called out multiple caterpie from the trees, seemingly welcoming them, especially Kenriku. "Free," several Butterfree chirped, flocking towards Kenriku. 2 Butterfree leaders landed on his arms, while the others circled them, making their characteristic cry. "How's everything here?" Kenriku inquired, looking at the 2 Butterfree on his arms. "Free," they responded, lowering their heads in disappointment. "I understand. It's not your fault. They need time to adjust. Be patient with them," Kenriku comforted, patting their heads. "Everyone, this was the beast's sanctuary," Kenriku introduced. "There are so many caterpillar beasts here," Jonathan observed cautiously. While he suspected these creatures had a relationship with Kenriku, caution was still necessary. "Shishao, meet my new partner." "Butterfly-san let me have one yesterday," Ryota introduced, pointing to the caterpie perched on his head. "Nay-ah-ah," the caterpie chirped happily. "That's good. I'm surprised you've bonded with them so well, unlike these 4 guys," Kenriku commented, glancing at others. "Not just him, I befriended Turtle-san too." "I'll introduce you later," Ryota announced with pride. "Kyuju, don't worry. I'll get one too." "I've made up my mind," Yamada added. "Yes, Kyuju. Actually, I think they aren't that scary," Nakamura chimed in. "Kyuju, I don't know if I can." Aizawa hesitated. "Kyuju, perhaps I'll try next time," Inu's voice pitched in. Kanraku suddenly had an idea. The four of you, didn't you slack off on your assignments before? Sorry. All four echoed in unison. How about befriending a caterpillar-san now as punishment? Kanraku suggested. What? They replied in shock. Kyuju, I think it might still be a bit risky, Inu quickly said. Yes, Kyuju, Aizawa responded with a downcast expression. Perhaps, we could try, Nakamura hesitated, eyeing the caterpillars. Yet. Yamato looked equally uncertain. Are you still scared? How long have you been here? Even Butterfly-san already recognizes you, and you're still scared. Kanraku chided. Butterfly-san, please look after them for now. The Butterfree looked at the four students and nodded in acknowledgement. Free. Kyuju. The expressions of Inu and Aizawa became serious. All right, do it, I believe in all of you. Be good to your new friends. If you harm them, you'll face consequences. The rest of you, come with me. We have people to meet, Kanraku urged, leading the way. Chapter 43, Meet at Last. This place is inside the forest, situated in the backyard of that luxurious Japanese house. Many beasts surround and guard this area. It's the only forest in the village, as the village resides near the beach. Here, we confront and fend off the beasts advancing towards us. We are on top of Takihama Island, and I've named it Kimono Hatch Forest, which means the beginning of the beasts. Does this place signify the beginning of your plan to conquer the beasts? Yvonne analyzed. Exactly. I should clarify, Kame Village is just a small part of Takihama Island at the top of the north. We're in the most remote part of the island. The village's size is only 9 square kilometers including the sea, while the entire Takihama Island is over 3,000 square kilometers, Kanraku explained. Hearing this, Floyd and the others took a deep breath, realizing the challenge ahead. Conquering the island in 6 months. I'm not sure it's feasible, Jonathan commented, deep in thought. Nihon experiences all 4 seasons. Autumn starts this month, followed by winter, which is when beasts are most aggressive in their search for food, Yvonne reminded them. Professor, can we manage? Floyd inquired. I'm confident about defending the villages. We have a population of Squirtle, Wartortle, and Blastoise. Plus, I've introduced many beasts to the villages, making them our primary defense, Kanraku confidently stated. The main concern is the food supply. Floyd-san, your poke block and healing powder methods are invaluable. You won't have to worry about a shortage of berries. Harvest as much as you need. Leave it to me, Professor. Floyd assured. Turning to Bianca, Kanraku queried, Bianca-san, I just knew today that you can create clothing from berries. Which berries do you need? Me, Professor. Bianca was surprised and became nervous. Yes, you, Kanraku nodded. I only know a bit. I can make clothing that adjusts to cold and heat. There's also fabric that, when the poisoned infiltrate the body, it can delay or even neutralize the poison, depending on one's immunity. And lastly, there's cloth that can heal burnt, Bianca explained, clearly nervous. Kanraku and the others were visibly taken aback. You can do that? I only know a few specific berries, and we'll need external materials, like cotton wool, silk, or the substance produced by Floyd's beast earlier, she continued, her voice shaking. She was always been nervous every time people talked to her except Swablu, Bird Saint, Absol. That's impressive, Kanraku said with amazement. Astonished, Jonathan looked at Bianca, can you really achieve that? She hesitated, there's a possibility of failure. Jonathan turned his attention between his companions, Bianca, you've been hiding your talents. Floyd seemed to be the only unique one among us. Yvonne, do you have hidden talents too? I'm as surprised as you are, Yvonne sighed. Kanraku, with a hopeful look, addressed Bianca, I'm entrusting you with this mission. She nervously nodded, I'll do my best. Observing her, Floyd asked, are you always this nervous? Yes, I am, a bit, she admitted. Eager to have a role, Jonathan queried, Professor, what tasks do you have in mind for me? Kanraku suggested, how about planting berry seeds, assisting beasts, and attending lessons on beast knowledge? Didn't you mention that earlier? Is there anything else I can assist with? Jonathan pressed. Do you possess any unique skills? Kanraku inquired. Regrettably, Jonathan shook his head, no, I don't. Kanraku reassured him, then focus on what I've assigned. You'll be compensated. I want berries, Jonathan said. You're good, you know the price, ha ha ha, Kanraku laughed. Of course, that's 500,000 TWD, Jonathan said. Professor, I know scouting. Maybe I can help you with that, Yvonne suggested. Scouting? You? Kanraku looked at him with confusion. Yeah, managing people on how to observe beasts from far away. It is to warn people earlier about any beast activity, Yvonne explained. Yvonne, you traitor! Even you! Jonathan pointed his finger at him angrily. Yvonne ignored him. That needs many people, right? Kanraku inquired. Not much, even no people needed, just beasts like the caterpillar from earlier. As long as you guarantee they will not hurt anyone, I don't mind doing it, Yvonne clarified. Shishao, I am tired, Ryota, with the caterpie on his head, panted as he called Kanraku. Climb onto my back, Kanraku said, lowering his body and sitting to wait for Ryota to climb. Ryota carefully put the caterpie on Kanraku's shoulder, then climbed onto his back, and placed the caterpie back on his head. They resumed their journey. You can trust them as long as you don't start trouble with them. They won't do anything to you. And your plan seems good. Okay, I will entrust it to you, Kanraku said. I just want 2 healing berries as a salary, Yvonne stated his intention. Kanraku looked at him, understanding his intention, and laughed. Ha 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 ha, fine, fine, do it. I'm quite surprised all 4 of you are so motivated. Ah ha ha ha, I'm so glad. A few minutes later, Ryota pointed out, Shishao, we are here. And here they are, pointing to the people who were planting berry seeds. Some trees were at different stages, some budding, while others were still in a stage of growth or had just started to sprout. Kanraku and everyone hurried to them. He set Ryota on the ground and announced, Everyone, I'm back. Kanraku Professor. Someone recognized him. Che, I really thought you would abandon us here and never come back, a beautiful, slender lady with black hair and a kin appearance in 20s snorted. Ha 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 ha, how could I? As I said before, my ambition hasn't even started. How would I abandon you here? Kanraku laughed, giving them a teasing smile. Well, I heard you've caused some trouble here. Kanraku inquired, looking around. Isn't it because autumn has started and you're still not here? What would we do if a beast attacked? And your people, I don't know what to say. Are they foreigners, and we are the natives here? Why do they seem more out of place than us? A man in glasses remarked. Ha ha ha, I'm really sorry about that. I didn't expect it either. As for the beasts, didn't I explain to you? I've promised that they will never attack people here, Kanraku said. We cannot guarantee if they will uphold their agreement. After all, they're still beasts, a handsome man in his mid-20s pointed out. Now that I'm here, I think you'll be reassured. And here is the last batch of our group, Kanraku said as he gestured towards Floyd, Bianca, Jonathan, and Yvonne. There are only a few. Just 4. The black-haired lady asked. Yes, only 4, but I'm telling you, they are good. Kanraku praised. By the way, Ryota, Kanraku called to Ryota, who was playing with his Caterpie. Shishao. Ryota responded. Tell those 4 guys to come back here within half an hour. We have a meeting. If they're late, tell them I'll increase a punishment, Kanraku instructed. Wakaramashita. Ryota said, then took out his phone to call them. Chapter 44, Conflict. 25 minutes later, Yamada, Nakamura, Aizawa, and Inu, each holding their respective Caterpie, entered the meeting looking notably embarrassed, especially Aizawa and Inu. Oh, you already catch it. Also, you made it this time, which means there's no additional punishment. Let your beasts come out first and come and sit down next to me, Kanraku said as he looked at them. The 4 of them responded, panting, then let the 4 Caterpie come out, a few moments later. They found their seats. Kanraku looked around at the people at the elongated table who sat in their specific groups. They were inside a large house close to their previous location. Now, since we're all gathered, let's reintroduce ourselves. I'm Kanraku Hiroshi from Nihon. I serve as the chairman of the Asian Alliance Association and am also a biologist currently delving into the existence of beasts, Kanraku introduced himself. Silence fell upon the room. Kanraku shot Yamada a stern look, prompting him to stand up, trembling slightly. Hi. Konnichiwa everyone, my name is Yamada Yukihiro, from Nihon. Yoroshiku wa onegaishimasu. He quickly sat back down, appearing uneasy. Konnichiwa everyone, my name is Nakamura. Yuto, from Nihon. Yoroshiku wa onegaishimasu, the plump Nakamura introduced himself before swiftly reclaiming his seat. Konnichiwa, everyone. My name is Inu Kazuki from Nihon. Yoroshiku wa onegaishimasu, Inu quickly stated and then sat. Konnichiwa, everyone, my name is Aizawa Haruko, from Nihon. Yoroshiku wa onegaishimasu, Aizawa mentioned, feeling the weight of everyone's gaze. Konnichiwa everyone, my name is Ryota. Suzuki Ryota, from Nihon, Edo, I'm 10 years old. Yoroshiku wa onegaishimasu. Ryota blushed and took a seat. Kanraku couldn't help but slap his forehead, apparently embarrassed by their collective performance. Jonathan, leaning over to Bianca, joked, Bianca, I think I found your relatives here. Floyd smirked in amusement at the remark. Bianca, caught off guard, simply blushed and lowered her head. Next, Kanraku prompted. My name is Chen Yu from the country of Longdong. Nice to meet you all, a handsome man in his mid-20s introduced himself. Hello, I'm Chen Xin from Longdong. Chen Yu is my brother. Nice to meet you all, a young woman said, drawing several glances, which her brother Chen Yu countered with warning looks. The introductions continued. My name is Li Qing. My name is Xiao Yun. Hu Tianyi. Chu Vi Hao. Xin Yuexin. Li Zhengi. Ren Mingch. Then, a man with glasses stood up. My name is Kong Jihun, from the country of Zhou. Nice to meet you all. Others from Zhou followed. Park Taiyang. Choi Yirin. Jian Seungmin. Ojuan. Gojisung. A striking woman took the floor, and crossed her arms. My name is Li Mylin from Rongzan. More from her group added their introductions. Nguyen Huang Fong. Famon Kwok. Huang Mai Thuong. Nguyen Ton Quang. Hu Xian Thao. Ngim Min Tuan. Jonathan then rose to his feet. My name is Perez, Jonathan from Maharlika. Nice to meet you. The rest of his group followed suit. Lester, Floyd. Quinto, Yvonne. Jimenez, Bianca. After everyone's introductions, Kanraku continued with the meeting. After introductions, Kanraku stood. Now that we've all introduced ourselves, remember why I gathered you all here. Kang Jihun reflected on this. Your plan and ambition are indeed grand. If successful in harmonizing beasts with humans, our names will be forever recorded in history, especially yours, he said, casting a thoughtful glance at Kanraku. Chen Yu, on the other hand, voiced a concern. But if we fail, we'll be labeled as traitors to humanity, he sighed. It's a bit late for doubts, don't you think? Le Mylin remarked with a smirk. Well, considering our situation, what other choice do we have? Responded Chen Yu. I trust the professor, Floyd chimed in confidently. Le Mylin frowned at him. Young lad, is it appropriate for you to chime in? Silence filled the room, reflecting the tension of her directness. What do you mean? Don't I have the right to reply? Floyd questioned, wearing a puzzled expression. Tisk. You've only just arrived, and we barely know you. Yet you suddenly intervene as if you are one of the old hands here, Le Mylin retorted with disdain. All of us are equals here, right? If I said something inappropriate, then I apologize, Floyd replied, still unsure of his misstep. Jonathan clapped Floyd reassuringly on the back. Floyd, you shouldn't have apologized to her. You haven't done anything wrong. Turning to Le Mylin, he added, and you, just because you arrived before us doesn't mean you can look down on us. Drop the superiority complex. No matter who you were in your country, you are nothing here, you are no different from the rest of us. Your arrogance is truly disgusting. You. What did you say? I'm disgusting? That I am nothing? Do you have any idea who I am? Le Mylin's voice crackled with indignation. The rest of her group shot frosty looks in Jonathan's direction. What? I'm just speaking the truth, you are nothing here, Jonathan remarked, noting their gaze and snorting in response. You're overstepping. All I'm saying is that you should show some respect since your group is new here, Le Mylin retorted. Why? Is there a rule dictating that? Jonathan shot back, visibly irritated. Do you not know of the unspoken rule? Le Mylin said with a snort. Others around them sighed. While there wasn't a formal rule, there was indeed an understood, unspoken one. I believe we all need to remain calm. Kanraku tried to mediate, but was quickly drowned out by the escalating disagreement. Oh, so you really labeling us as the new ones? Then what does that make you? An old woman? Jonathan shot back, his tone dripping with sarcasm. You shit, what did you say? Le Mylin rose, her face contorted with anger. Several women in the room, sensing the direction this was heading, threw icy glances at Jonathan. Guys, Kanraku attempted to intercede, but the clamor continued unabated. So, you are implying that I'm old? Le Mylin snapped. Did you not say we're new? What's the opposite of new, isn't old? Jonathan smug. And look at you, standing there, so smug, your nostril, you look like a hippopotamus. Le Mylin rebut. You, Jonathan. Was about to retort, but Floyd pulled him back, whispered Jonathan, let it go. Rise above it. We're here as adults, not squabbling kids. If she wants respect, let's just give it to her. One of Le Mylin's group members also pulled her to one side. Floyd persisted, his voice low, just let her words roll off you. Remember why we're here. Stay focused. But she had the gall to call me a hippopotamus. Jonathan grumbled, still glaring at Le Mylin, who retaliated by silently mouthing hippopotamus back at him. Before he could mouth back old woman, she had already turned away. Le Mylin, Jonathan emphasized her name one by one silently, his eyes narrowed, we're not finished. Have you calmed down now? Floyd inquired gently. Fine, Jonathan responded, albeit reluctantly. Is everyone settled? Kanraku sighed. Let's move on. Our plan for the coming month is straightforward. The majority of the berries are set to ripen this autumn, and we need to harvest them. But the Kimono forest is a bit large, so we need scouts to cover each sector. Here, take a look at this sample map. Yamada-san. Everyone, Yamada responded. Alongside Inu, Nakamura, and Aizawa, they started distributing maps to each group. Study the map. Kame village covers just a bit over 3.5 square kilometers, excluding the sea area. The Kimono forest alone covers nearly 2.98 square kilometers, making up over 85% of the village, Kanraku elaborated. The attendees examined the map while taking in Kanraku's explanation, realizing that Kame village was a mere segment of the larger Takihama Islands. Of the Kimono forest's 2.98 square kilometers, we've claimed only 0.8 so far. The marked areas on your map show the territories we currently occupy. Our immediate goal is to focus on harvesting the berries in this designated region, Kanraku summarized. Chapter 45, Hunger's Innovation. In this area, the total number of berry trees is estimated at 5,000. Out of these, only 1,500 berries have healing effects. The current total of ripe berries remaining is around 3,500 since the beasts have already consumed the rest. Among these berries, we have 450 oran berries, 300 wiki berries, 250 lapapa berries, 200 each of aguaf, mago, and lum berries, 150 leppa berries which are the beast's favorites, and 100 each of shari, persum, citrus for paralysis, chesto for sleep, pecha for poison, which is crucial for us, and pasho berries. These are all the berries with effects. The current total population of our beasts stands at 1,150, 320 are caterpillar beasts, 220 are cocoon beasts, 140 are squirtle beasts, 120 are rat beasts, 105 are butterfly beasts, 50 are little bird beasts, and 35 are wart-ortlace. Kanraku read the report line by line. Considering the other ripened berries that have no effects, it might be sufficient for now. However, the sudden addition of over 200 beasts, coupled with the rapid growth of the caterpillar beasts, has increased our food pressure, Kang Jihun pointed out. I recall when I first arrived here, the population was only around 400. Now, it's more than doubled. In another 2 months, the population could rise again. The rice harvested last week might only last a month, especially with their population doubling every month. We need alternative food sources, or they will attack us, Chen Yu remarked with concern. Mostly, the caterpillar beasts consume leaves, so that should reduce the strain on food resources, right? Le Mylin inquired. You don't grasp the staggering growth rate of these caterpillar beasts. When we first arrived over a month ago, their numbers were just a quarter of what they are now. Each week brings countless new caterpillar beasts hatching from eggs. Imagine this rate continuing for months or even a year. They might strip the entire forest of its foliage. Professor, given your background in biology, you understand the implications, right? Chen Yu asked, looking intently at Kanraku. Such beasts shouldn't be managed by humans. They will only bring harm to us, Chen Yu asserted. Kanraku paused, reflecting on Chen Yu's words. He had previously promised a peaceful coexistence between humans and beasts, but now he began to doubt the feasibility of such an idea. On another note, I've observed a new group of rat beasts reproducing rapidly. Their reproduction might not be as aggressive as the caterpillar beasts, but still exaggerated, and their appetite is much more compared to caterpillar beasts. They are a concern, Kang Jihun added. Professor, relying solely on berry farming won't sustain this growing beast population. If you're determined to make this work, sacrifices will be essential, Le Mylin stated bluntly. Professor, might I suggest Floyd's poke blocks method? Jonathan chimed in, glancing smugly at Le Mylin as if to say, I'm new here, but I want to join in. Le Mylin snorted and turned her head away. Floyd's poke blocks method might not suffice. We need some berries for medicinal purposes too, and we might not have enough to feed the escalating beast numbers, Kenriku said with a heavy sigh. Hold on, Professor. What is this poke block you're mentioning? Le Mylin inquired, echoing the confusion of the group. It's Floyd's innovative food creation. Many beasts are fond of it. Floyd, would you present it? Kenriku invited. In fact, Professor, making poke blocks isn't as intricate as you might think. These two berries, kuo and nutpea, are all we need, Floyd clarified, showing the fruits. I recall you mentioning that now, Kenriku responded, tapping his forehead in a moment of realization. For reference, this bag contains enough poke blocks to feed a single beast for 2 weeks, Floyd explained, displaying a bag of the foodstuff. Are you kidding me? How can that be enough? Honestly, I thought it was great, but it's actually fake. That bag might only be enough for 1 meal for the beasts, Le Mylin disdained as she spoke with this pretentious guy. Don't compare this food to normal food. Each piece of this contains a lot of energy suitable for beasts. It's like the vitamin pills humans take, but unlike those pills that only have a few minerals, this poke block is a full package of minerals. 4 to 8 poke blocks are enough for them for a meal, Floyd explained, showing them a sample cube. Ryota, Kenriku said. Shishao. Ryota responded, confused. Call all the caterpillars outside and let them try it, Kenriku instructed. Got it, Ryota ran outside. A few minutes later, he returned with 4 caterpillars following him. I called them all, Ryota reported. Floyd stood up and gave each of them 5 poke blocks. The caterpillar looked confused initially, but once they smelled the food, they found it delicious and ate their share. A few minutes later, 3 caterpillars had eaten 2 pieces, and 2 caterpillars had consumed 3 pieces, looking full and content. That's it. Le Mylin was taken aback, initially thinking they were acting, but the caterpillar's satisfied expression seemed genuine. I'm even more surprised. 2 of them managed to eat 3 pieces, Floyd said, picking up the leftover poke block. But seeing the caterpillar's anxious expressions, he smiled and gave it back. This food solution might alleviate our immediate concerns. Floyd, I'm assigning you to this, Kenriku stated. Understood. Floyd nodded, retaking his seat. However, this alone won't be a lasting solution, Kenriku added with a hint of disappointment. Indeed, if this new food can genuinely be made from just berries, it might tide us over for a few months. But thinking long-term, it's insufficient, Kong Jihun concurred with a shake of his head. I admit that this method shows promise, but with just the caterpillars and rat beasts, we're already stretched thin. What if we encounter more species that reproduce at alarming rates? This isn't a comprehensive solution, Le Mylin countered with a snort. Professor, everyone, can I say something? Floyd asked cautiously, not wanting to overstep since he was new. Please speak, Kenriku encouraged. With the professor's nod, Chen Yu added, go ahead. Le Mylin merely snorted, not objecting, signaling Floyd to continue. With the group's tacit approval, and even though Le Mylin merely snorted without objecting, Floyd took a deep breath before saying, there's an old saying, give a man a fish, and you feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, and you feed him for a lifetime. This principle applies even more to the beasts. Many have already surpassed human strength. Imagine training these beasts to perform tasks in exchange for food. Their efficiency could surpass human capabilities. For example, caterpillars could produce silk, rat beasts could be used for logging or moving boulders, bird beasts for rapid deliveries, and electric beasts for energy generation. The possibilities are vast, Floyd elaborated. The room fell silent. The profound implications of what Floyd proposed left the group in contemplative shock. Even Kanriku hadn't considered this angle. "Professor, this plan holds promise. It could revolutionize to a new industries," Kang Jihun mused, his excitement evident. "I thought about some applications, like utilizing wartlace to propel ships or provide irrigation for trees." "But Floyd, your depth of thinking is commendable," Kanriku admitted, clearly impressed with Floyd's contributions. His ideas started from the healing powder to the poke block, and now this. Floyd indeed is their lucky charm, he thought. "But we still have a problem," Chen Yu interjected, bringing them back to reality. Chapter 46, The Term Breeder and Trainer. "Using beasts for efficiency in work even surprises me. I'll approve of it, but here comes another problem. If we really can do what he said, surely we humans will not lack anything. However, as the beasts' population growth increases, the things they provide, like silk from caterpillar beasts for example, will be so much that people can't handle that much. The supply will certainly increase tremendously, more than the demand, which will cause another problem. Surely, that will not be healthy for the business industry." Chen Yu pointed out another problem to them. Again, everyone in the room became silent. Although Chen Yu is always somewhat pessimistic, everything he said was on point. From the start, he pointed out the causes of the overpopulation of the beasts and now the disadvantages of an oversupply compared to low demand. All of it was reasonable and logical. Caterpillar beasts aren't like the human population of Longdong 5 years ago. The human reproduction in our country is not as exaggerated as this. Even if you use a one-child policy or even a two-child policy, it's hard to stop the increase in their population growth," Chen Yu sternly said as he looked at them one by one. Floyd started to think about the Pokémon anime from his previous life. Everything was harmonious between people and Pokémon. How did they manage to coexist? Although there were many Pokémon inside the city, it's not in the situation that Chen Yu described. The population was carefully managed. Floyd thought of 4 reasons why. First, the majority of Pokémon are not residing in the city because they're living in their suitable environment outside. The food web of ecology was perfectly managed, especially the forest near the city, where many rangers are guarding and keeping the balance. Second, there are a lot of breeders who know how to take care of and feed Pokémon. Some are opening breeding shops, while some breeders are taking jobs in big industries. Third, there's the identity of the trainer. They are the ones who defend the city in all roles, including ranger, nurse, police, investigator, adventurer, coordinator, etc. All of them are part of the trainer system. The fourth reason, which is the most crucial, is the item called the Pokeball. This item was the foundation for the 3 reasons he thought of earlier. This item also made the trainer system thrive. Many industries flourished because of this item. The sheer number of people is vast. Defending the city is enough. Actually, not only the city, but defending their entire region is enough. Imagine if a strong Pokémon were to attack your city, and there are 10,000 trainers throwing their Pokeballs, and numerous Pokémon appearing. That scene would indeed be magnificent. However, thinking of the price of the recipe for the Pokeball in the system, which was 5,000 points, he felt it was cheap. He could afford it, but he had no points right now since he spent them all on the Gyarados breeding method. Then, he started to feel like he had been impulsive and shouldn't have bought that. Then he noticed something amiss. Why was the Pokeball recipe cheaper than the full heal, which cost him more than 10,000 points? His eyes lit up as he detected a bug. Note from the author, the MC will address the oversight in the author's story, haha. Then there's no choice but to apply the food web, I guess, Kang Jihun sighed. Food web? Everyone was confused by what he said. It's the same as with animals where each one of them has their own prey and predator, Kanriku explained, sighing in disappointment. When only animals were here in this world, we did the same thing, and we can also apply it to the beasts, Le Mylin said sternly. The problem with using that is that we can't change anything. We're back at the start because, in the first case, we are also the victims, being prey, Chen Yu expressed, his face descending into a state of gloom. Ha ha ha, since we're helpless with it, then let's ask Floyd. I'm sure he has a solution. Jonathan suddenly intervened, as he looked at them proudly saying, I'm new here, and I have a right to speak. This guy. Yvonne slapped his forehead, subtly shifted his chair, and turned away, silently conveying, he doesn't know this guy. Bianca's face turned even redder, and she bowed her head, wishing she could disappear. Floyd, previously deep in thought, was snapped back by the attention on him. His expression turned serious. Jonathan, you bastard! In his mind, Floyd scolded Jonathan, who seemed to hold high expectations of him. You hippopotamus, you're truly shameless, Le Mylin said, looking at Jonathan disdainfully. You say what? You old woman! Jonathan retorted angrily. You! Okay, Floyd, do you have a way? Kanraku interrupted, hoping to prevent another argument. He then looked expectantly at Floyd. He had noticed that Floyd often had solutions to problems Kanraku hadn't considered. Ahem, Professor, I have a suggestion, Floyd quickly replied, also wanting to avoid any further disagreements instigated by Jonathan. Oh, please tell, Kanraku said, his eyes lighting up. How about we implement the terms breeder and trainer? Floyd proposed. Breeder? Trainer? Can you elaborate? Kanraku, now intrigued, asked. Professor, everyone, I just want to say something. I'm not bragging, but I, alone, can feed many beasts, hundreds, even thousands, in a day. Just give me enough berries, and I can do it, Floyd declared. So, what's the connection with the two terms you mentioned? Just because you can feed thousands of beasts doesn't mean you can feed all of the BEA. Le Mylin began skeptically, but she stopped as a thought seemed to strike her. Miss Le, did you catch on? If I alone can feed thousands, imagine what thousands of people could do, Floyd calmly explained. The term breeder I mention encompasses more than just feeding. It relates to understanding various beasts, knowing about different berries, producing medicines, and most of aspects related to a beast's condition. And the trainer I'm referring to, have you all seen the strength of the professor's blast was? Floyd asked. The group, including Chen Yu and Kang Jihun, were still digesting the breeder concept when Floyd posed the new question. It's strong, right? But do you know that the professor's blast was started off as a small turtle, that blue Squirtle? Floyd continued. If you're talking about that baby Lord Blue, yes, we've seen it, Kang Jihun confirmed, and others nodded. It then evolves to Wartortle, Floyd added. Wait, isn't it just the older version of Lord Blue? Kang Jihun seemed confused. Didn't you notice a turtle with ears like wings? That's a Wartortle characteristic, Floyd replied, equally puzzled. From their reactions, Floyd realized they had a limited understanding of Pokémon evolution. While they recognized the term evolve, they interpreted it merely as growth, not transformation. In the professor's line of turtle beasts, there are 3 stages. First is the Squirtle. Once it accumulates enough energy, it evolves into Wartortle. Similarly, with the requisite energy, Wartortle transforms into the Blastoise, like the professor's. I'm explaining this because it's closely tied to the concept of trainer. Chapter 47, Floyd's Insight, a Framework of Trainer. Professor, let me ask, when you first met Blastoise, was it a Squirtle or a Wartortle? Floyd inquired. It was a Squirtle, 4 years ago. It evolved into Blastoise 2 years ago, Kanraku replied, feeling nostalgic as he remembered the past. Now, imagine if everyone here had a Squirtle that evolved into Blastoise in 2 years. Can you imagine how powerful that would be? Floyd posed. What? The room filled with surprised reactions. If that were to happen, it would be like possessing a nuclear weapon. Kang Jihun mused deeply. Yet, it could also be like a ticking time bomb. What if they turned on us? Chen Yu raised a counterpoint. But isn't the bond between the professor and Blastoise proof enough? Do you really think Blastoise would attack the professor? Floyd challenged. No, it's impossible. I'm 100% certain that my partner would never do that, Kanraku declared without hesitation. Floyd, your suggestion is commendable. If any of you wish to befriend a beast, I'm supportive, as long as the beasts accept you. However, 2 to 4 years is so long, I can't wait, Kanraku sighed, shaking his head. Professor, I only used Blastoise as an example. This applies to most beasts. Speaking of which, do you remember my Dratini? Can you guess its age? Floyd asked. Your serpent beast? Judging by its strength, I'd estimate it's 2 to 3 months old, Kanraku speculated, his brow furrowing in thought. You're mistaken, Professor. It's only 3 weeks old. Floyd clarified, amplifying the age to make it sound more plausible. If he said his Dratini was merely a week old, skepticism would surely arise. You're joking, right? I've spent 4 years researching creatures, and I can confidently say that achieving the training level of your Dratini in under a month is improbable, Kanraku retorted, shaking his head in disbelief. Professor, surely you know that some newborn wild beasts can exhibit rapid growth and development. Floyd pointed out. Kanraku paused, reflecting deeply, true. However, that acceleration usually arises from heightened survival instincts, pushing their potential to the limits. This often leads to a stunted growth compared to their domestically raised counterparts. Unlike your beast, which, while combative, also seems well grown. It's challenging to believe it's only 3 weeks old. Such rapid development demands immense energy which, when measured from birth, suggests a time span of 2 to 3 months, if not 4. That is, unless you've replicated the wild conditions which, to my knowledge, you haven't. What if I told you the poke block I produce helps beasts recover energy rapidly? Floyd revealed with a grin. What? The poke block can do that? How quickly does it restore energy? Kanraku's eyes widened in anticipation. It varies based on the type, berry quality, and one's proficiency in crafting it. For instance, a poke block made from nutpea and kuo particularly benefits normal types, possibly doubling their energy recovery. For other types, it might offer a 1.5x boost. My customized poke blocks for beasts, however, could provide an energy increase between 2.5 to 3 times. Remember our discussion on the ship about berries potentially having a type similar to beasts? Floyd explained. So, are you suggesting that there are berries that match types such as fire, water, plant, earth, air, electric, serpent, and others? Kanraku inquired. I'm not entirely sure about all the types, but for those you've mentioned, I know some berry types that might align with a specific type suitable for crafting poke blocks. Actually, for now, the best ingredients for my current situation in making poke blocks are typically non-effect berries except for those high-quality berries such as elan berry, paso berry, etc. However, this doesn't mean berries with effects are not good and unusable. For example, I'm fairly certain cherry berry has fire attributes, chesto aligns with water, persimmon with ground, and rost also pertains to ground. That's my understanding of effect-bearing berries. As for the others, I'm still researching. But if you're interested in berries without effects, I can elaborate further, Floyd explained. If your claims was really true, then we might need to revisit our strategies, particularly in berry collection. The non-effect berries you mentioned would gain priority. Moreover, if poke blocks can really amplify energy by 2-fold or more, if we calculate in the time, achieving advancements in under a month seems possible. But what about your serpent beast combat abilities? You know it's hard to learn. Kanraku paused off, recalling how Floyd had trained his Pokémon on the ship. Aha, I see, I get it. No wonder you achieved such progress in under a month. Is this what you define as a trainer? Floyd, you are truly a genius. Kanraku exclaimed, rising from his seat. A wave of realization gave him goosebumps as he gazed at Floyd. Most others felt overshadowed and became a foil of the complicated discussion between the duo. Even the knowledgeable Chen Yu and Kang Jihun were rendered speechless this time. They don't know anything about what they were talking about. Just how old is Floyd? And yet he grasps such complex concepts. Their perceptions of Floyd underwent a transformation. Even Le Mylin, who initially held a negative opinion of him, found herself swayed. So, Professor, everyone, you all might not have to wait that long after all. Imagine possessing a partner capable of evolving to its second or even final form in less than a year. How strong is that? Now, extrapolate that to the concept of trainers I've been speaking of. Picture a multitude of trainers each with formidable beast partners, while some trainers maintaining a balanced ecosystem. If a beast invasion were to occur, imagine our defense bolstered by numerous fully evolved creatures, Floyd elucidated. Then picture thousands, or even hundreds of thousands, of breeders capable of nurturing thousands of beasts each. Think of the industrial efficiency with the beasts we discussed earlier. Handling beasts isn't as hard at all, Floyd continued. In fact, he refrained from mentioning the concept of a Pokeball, as he had yet to determine how to explain it, and currently, he has no points. But once it materialized, it would undoubtedly be a game changer. Chapter 48, The Youngest. More than hours after the meeting started, Kanraku and the others made a decision to follow Floyd's framework. They also added some additional suggestions, such as insisting that rice planting couldn't be stopped no matter what, promoting collaboration in technology development, focusing on ecological planning, brainstorming new industry ideas related to beasts, adopting the healing powder method suggested by Floyd, incorporating the term scout as suggested by Yvonne, and even utilizing the cloth made from berries by Bianca. The last batch of suggestions surprised them. If one were to take a closer look at these four members, Jonathan would appear to be the most conventional of them all. After hours more of discussion regarding assignments, they reached the following decisions. Chen Yu would be the captain, with Kang Jihun as the vice-captain. They'd manage the food and berry supplies, oversee how to best utilize the beasts for maximum output, and prioritize the first mission about planning silk production using Caterpie. Kanraku, Floyd, Bianca, and his disciples would work on technology, research berries, study beasts, provide materials, oversee breeding research, and assist Chen Yu and the others with various challenges. For scouting, Le Mylin and Yvonne would be captain and vice-captain, respectively, responsible for exploring the forest. Jonathan had wanted to object to Le Mylin's appointment as captain, but everyone was shocked by her martial arts skills. She actually knows martial arts. Seeing Jonathan beaten up in a physical confrontation, Floyd sighed and applied a healing powder to him, thinking, poor soul, he's provoked a true monster this time. This gathering also marked the first time he observed their Pokémon. Surprisingly, only a few had them. For instance, Kang Jihun owned an Illithid. In his group, 2 possessed a Meowth and a Vulpix. Chen Yu and Li Qin had Hisuian Growlithes, while Chen Yu's sister kept a Shuckle. 2 others in the group had an Eevee and a Starly. On Le Mylin's side, she had both a Tyrogue and a Mankey, while 3 others had a Pidgey, a Poliwag, and a Hoppip. Floyd was taken aback because most of these were Gen 4 or earlier Pokémon. But as much as they surprised him, the others were even more astonished by his beats, an Axew, a Horsa, a Dratini, 5 Gumis, and a Munchlax. The number and diversity of his beasts were extraordinary, second only to Professor Kanraku. Most impressively, it seemed he shared a deep bond with each of these beasts. The other group members were still somewhat wary of their own Pokémon, fearful of potential attacks. They often restrained them with iron rings. Observing all of Floyd's Pokémon being unrestrained, they felt bitter, especially seeing the longing eyes of their beasts. Bianca, too, seemed to be following Floyd's and Kenriku's route, having a Swablu, a Puchayana, a Talo, and a Chikorita. Yvonne too had a Spinarak, but it seemed it was insignificant compared to the Pokémon that both Floyd and Bianca showcased. After their meeting, Kenriku invited everyone to a communal celebration, lighting a bonfire and sharing food. As everyone partook, many Pokémon were also present. At first, many in the group were a bit apprehensive, but after witnessing the harmonious interactions, they gradually relaxed, but they remained slightly on guard. The undeniable star of the evening, however, was Tijipai. Its adorable appearance made it an immediate favorite, particularly among the women. They wanted to hug it. Even Le Mai Lin, with her tomboyish demeanor, couldn't resist holding it close with her arms. Every girl seemed to follow suit, except for Bianca, who looked on enviously but was nervous to go, seeing the pressure of many people. Overwhelmed by the sudden hug, Tijipai let out a distressed cry, subsequently leaping into Bianca's arms. Seemingly unsure of how to react, Bianca simply let the adorable creature cling to her. Floyd mused that if this were an animated scene, Bianca's eyes would probably sparkle with hearts, given her nervous yet enchanted gaze upon Tijipai. Many female looked envious, and Le Mai Lin approached, sitting beside him. "Floyd, right?" Le Mai Lin asked casually. Unsure of her intentions, Floyd answered, "Yes, Miss Le, is there something?" "No, I just came here to apologize for my behavior earlier." "I hope you can forgive me," Le Mai Lin stated directly. Floyd was taken aback by her straightforwardness, silently thinking she was really true to herself and unashamed in her approach. "No, Miss Le, it wasn't entirely your fault. Actually, it's also my fault, I didn't read the mood." Before he could finish, Le Mai Lin patted his shoulder repeatedly. "Why are you apologizing? From the very beginning, the fault was mine. I'm just deliberately looking for a fault to blame you. You have no reason to apologize." This. Floyd, a bit at a loss for words, continued, "Actually, it's not just about me. I also want to apologize for Jonathan's behavior. He didn't mean any harm, he was merely trying to protect me. I hope you understand." "Humph, that hippopotamus. I get what you're saying, but him calling me an old woman? That's unforgivable," Le Mai Lin exclaimed with indignation. Then, her demeanor shifted to a warm smile. "Floyd, you're surprisingly mature for your age. I didn't expect you to forgive me so easily. I was ready for your refusal, but you surprised me, ha ha ha, you're so good," she laughed as she continued to pat his shoulder. "Unlike a certain someone in your group. He might be the oldest, but he acts so childishly." "You? Who are you referring to?" Jonathan interjected, having overheard the conversation and now glowering at her. "What?" Le Mai Lin retorted, returning his icy glare. Feeling a chill, and vividly recalling their earlier fight, Jonathan frightened briefly. He gritted his teeth as he looked at her before quickly retreating. "Humph, such a coward. He think he's tough, but he's no match for me. If he dares to try that again, I'll disable him," Le Mai Lin declared, her fists clenched. Floyd just sighed, realizing that peace between the two seemed unlikely. "Floyd, thank you for understanding. From now on, call me Sister Lin," she offered, standing up. "Well, Sister Lin, it was really no big deal. We are both fellow from Southeast Asian, right?" Floyd smiled. "Yes, right, right. We should share a drink sometime, as a sign of our Southeast Asian bond, ha ha ha, that's a cool name. Anyway, you'd better not refuse." Le Mai Lin laughed heartily. Sister Lin, I don't think I can," Floyd replied, blushing, noticing some eavesdroppers nearby. "Why? Are you turning down an offer from your sister? She teased. No, 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 it's not that. It's just that. I'm only 14, Floyd waved her hand as he confessed, his cheeks reddening. What? You're only 14? I thought you were 18. Mylin exclaimed, her voice drawing attention from everyone around. Sister, you're being so loud, Floyd whispered, his face turning a deep shade of red to his ears and coming down through his neck as he felt everyone's gaze upon him. Ha ha ha, you surprised me there. You looked like 16 or 18 based on your physique, but you're actually just 14? You're suitable for practicing martial arts. If you want to ask me, just go with me, I'll teach you. Mylin patted his shoulder. No wonder you can't drink. But don't worry, big sister will cover you. From now on, I will call you the youngest, Mylin added. As the celebration wrapped up, many began referring to him by his new nickname, the youngest. Chapter 49, System. Gone. After the celebration, each one returned to their room. This time, however, the rooms were shared. Floyd, Yvonne, and Jonathan were grouped together, while Mylin took Bianca to another room they would share with a girl named Huang Mai Thuong. Floyd glanced around their new space. Even though it was a shared room, it felt spacious, roughly the size of a typical office room. Even if he brought out all his Pokémon, it wouldn't feel crowded. Everyone could still enjoy their personal space. Kanriku had mentioned that the place used to be a hospital before the beasts appeared. Over the span of 5 years, it transformed, becoming an abandoned hospital. The nature around it changed too, plants and trees grew rapidly, integrating with the surroundings. Without delay, Floyd began preparing food for his 9 Pokémon. Once done, he quickly entered the bathroom. Inside, he began filling the bathtub with warm water. He then placed Dragonite Mother next to it and started the routine he always followed, massaging and feeding her. Even if it seemed a bit inappropriate to do this here, he felt he had no choice since Yvonne and Jonathan were also outside. After completing the routine, he returned Dragonite Mother to the Pokeball and then submerged himself into the warm bath. Mentally, he shouted to the system, "System, you're such a rip-off. Host, this system doesn't know your intentions and actions. However, I am here to serve. It would be beneficial if you avoided unfairly criticizing the system without a solid reason." "I have every reason. You scammed me." "What do you mean, host? Please elucidate. Why is it that a Pokeball recipe costs just 5,000 points, but healing Dragonite Mother costs over 50,000? There's a bug here, isn't there? You need to compensate me." Having understood the potential benefits of identifying system errors, Floyd was always on the lookout for them. "Host, you might have forgotten that the costs are tied to your proficiency level. If you were at a higher proficiency, the costs would be considerably less. At the advanced level, for example, the price would be just a little over 5,000 points, plus the simulation would cost somewhere 10,000 to more than 20,000, depending on the simulation multiplier. If you reach the master level, it's only 2,560 points. Then have you forgotten that if I just buy some recipe and then use simulation to make it, it will be cheaper, right?" It seemed, "You're right. Then, why did you suggest I spend over 50,000 points?" "Host, I never precisely mentioned 50,000 points. You made that assumption." This. Floyd stopped a bit and thought about it, and yet, it seemed right. "No, it's not right. I must extort this system." After a brief pause, Floyd countered, "System, don't play games. I clearly mentioned 50,000 points earlier, and you never corrected me. It's more cost-effective to buy recipes and use the simulation, isn't it?" "System. Then. Host, why didn't you think of that earlier? You, don't shift the blame onto me. This is entirely your fault. You didn't inform me. You need to compensate me, you must compensate me. Floyd's excitement grew as he felt he had the system cornered. The system hesitated briefly. The advice I provided was based on the fact that the process would not only heal Dragonite Mother but also enable her to break through her limitations and reach the elite stage. Elite stage? Elite stage? What's that? Is it some sort of Pokémon ranking? Floyd's surprise was palpable. There are 5 stages of Pokémon, which are Rookie, level 119. Pro, level 2039. Ace, level 4059. Elite, level 6079. Champion, level 80 and above. Gym leaders are at the level of Ace, and Master also belongs to Champion, so I didn't add it. What? But Dragonite Mother is only level 58, Floyd expressed his confusion. However, the system remained silent. System, why aren't you responding? You can't just ignore this because you made a mistake. You must give me that method as compensation. System. System. Host, I will go. What do you mean? Floyd was confused. I made more than 2 mistakes, which will lead to my elimination. What? Then what will happen to the system? It will function as a game panel, following your instructions, but you will still need to spend points. And what about you? I will be gone. But you only made 2 mistakes, right? Floyd felt guilty for having been so harsh on the system. First, I was outsmarted by the Blastoise situation. Second, the max revival recipe that can heal the female Dragonite only costs 5,000 points plus 10,240, which equals 15,240. Although you don't have the materials to create it, I should have informed you of that. Third, the full heal you used should have only cost 3,920. I will return the extra points. Fourth, there were errors in my calculations and deductions. 10,240 comes from Master Proficiency, 2,560 x 4 equals 10,240. Blamed the system for making fraud. Host, don't feel bad, it's written on the contract, and I broke the contract, so I deserved it. Yeah, it's the system's fault. System deserved it. I could not ask you any more if you're gone. Floyd was depressed a bit. Host, don't worry, after I'm gone, the game panel will update to fix some things. And by the way, host, the reason it became expensive is because it's not a normal max revival but mixed with dragon elements. I will give you the recipe now. Host, don't feel guilty. It's part of the contract. If I breach the contract, I deserve this consequence. Yes, it's the system's fault. The system deserves this. A rush of information flooded Floyd's mind. Understanding the method, Floyd realized he couldn't replicate it without the simulator's assistance. It's been a pleasure assisting you these past 8 months. It's been nice having you around, system, Floyd admitted somberly. Genesis number 15,544,854,458 system will be terminated in 10, 9. Floyd watched the countdown. 8. By the way, Floyd. He was taken aback by the system addressing his name. 7. I want to share something important. 6. You're like me. 5. And you've succeeded. 4. 3. And I was. 2. Once. 1. A human. 0. Ding. Game panel update commencing. Completion in 24 hours. Stunned, Floyd tried to process what the system had revealed. I was like you. What do you mean by that? If I'm similar to the system, does that mean I'm also an AI? But that's impossible, I'm human, not a robot. Wait. The system said it was once human, then it became an AI. So, I'm going to become an AI too? Or did I become an AI before? What? Ah, this is too confusing. Overwhelmed, Floyd placed his hands on his head, trying to calm his racing thoughts. Chapter 50, Training, Bonus Chapter Reward. September 2, 2005. 8 a.m. Floyd stood emotionlessly, watching Horsa train alongside Warderdle. Horsa faced immense pressure from her opponent, consistently avoiding Warderdle's touch and counter-attacking with water gun. Meanwhile, the female Warderdle adeptly dodged Horsa's attacks and responded with rapid spin. Their objective was simple: avoid getting hit. Each time Horsa was struck, she lost a poke block. After 5 hits, her meal would be restricted to only 3 poke blocks, in addition to the total number of points she had taken. Warderdle, on the other hand, was rewarded by Floyd with 3 poke blocks. To earn more, she had to hit Horsa. Horsa let out a cry after getting hit by water gun. Warderdle responded with joy. Squirtle Squirtle. Squirtle Squirtle. The 2 Squirtles kept score, marking Horsa's hits on a board with 5, while Warderdle hits on a board were only 2. Here's your total of 8 poke blocks, Floyd said, patting Warderdle's shell. Warderdle. The contented Warderdle then gestured for the 2 Squirtles. Squirtle Squirtle. Squirtle Squirtle. Here, 2 for each of you. Floyd handed out 4 poke blocks in total, patting each Squirtle in turn. After they left, Floyd approached Horsa, applying healing powder to her injuries. Seeing her teary eyes, a pang of guilt hit Floyd. However, he retained his stern facade, determined to discipline Horsa for her own benefit. He presented her meal, topped with 5 poke blocks, and offered, "If you can run back and forth from here to that tree 15 times, I'll add an extra 3 poke blocks. If you manage to learn a new move, you'll receive an additional 5 poke blocks for every meal over the next 3 days." As Horsa's tears continued to flow, she fixed her gaze on Floyd's backpack. She hadn't anticipated his sudden change, and he now felt like a stranger to her. But the lure of food steadied her, and she began to eat. Watching her, Floyd regretted indulging her previously. He was now paying the price for his earlier leniency. While watching her, Floyd was filled with regret for his prior leniency. He then shifted his attention to Munchlax. Due to the Pokémon's emaciated state, Floyd's main directive for him was simple: eat. Although unfamiliar with Munchlax's specific training requirements, he had jotted down basic stats and moves in his notebook. Pokémon, Munchlax. Level, 9 to 13. Type, Normal. Ability, Thick Fat. Moves. Beginner level, Lick, Defense Curl, Tackle. This Pokémon only knew 3 moves and hadn't inherited any genetic moves from his parents. Munchlax wasn't initially in Floyd's plans, but the Pokémon's persistence left him with no choice. Floyd intended to train him to guard his future breeding shop. The significant food expenses were thankfully sponsored by Professor Kanraku. Observing Munchlax consume his meal, Floyd noted that what would be a daily meal for his other Pokémon seemed like only 1 meal for Munchlax. However, this was still less than what he consumed aboard the ship. Perhaps the Pokémon had been extraordinarily hungry back then. Now, things seemed normalized, with Munchlax eating daily. Currently, Munchlax underwent mild training, a brief run followed by eating. Munchlax's foundational skills were even weaker than Gummy's. Floyd realized the need to bolster them. Had Floyd not come across Munchlax, the Pokémon might have perished within a week under his previous owner. Speaking of Gummis, Floyd looked in their direction and saw the leader Gummy leading at the front while the other 4 trailed behind. Having finished their meal, they returned to their mild training. The training regimen for the 5 Gummis was quite similar to that of Munchlax since their foundations were also strained. Though their state wasn't as dire as Munchlax's had once been, it was still quite concerning. Their condition was even worse than that of Axia when Floyd first met him. These Gummis had no complaints about their current lives. Even though Floyd imposed training sessions on them, this environment was paradise compared to their past with their previous owner. Here, they had access to an abundance of delicious food, and their current owner treated them kindly. They sensed a familial bond with him, which made their lives even better. They treasured this life and didn't want to give their current owner any reason to be disappointed in them. Especially the leader Gumi, who was the most hard-working among them all. Floyd appreciated their dedication and watched them with admiration. Horsa had already finished her meal and started her run. She was determined to earn those 2 additional poke blocks, she thought. As she sprinted, she looked with envy at Munchlax, who was still eating, and the Gumis who had just begun their meal. They were the privileged ones here. Sadly, she realized that Floyd had put restrictions on her food intake. Observing her, Floyd sighed in relief. Despite her previous temper tantrums and sulking around him, she was now committed to her tasks. This was a significant improvement. Though he anticipated that their bond might not be as strong as before, he hoped for the best. He then turned his attention to Dratini, who was practicing moves like Twister, Dragon Breath, and Thunder Wave, primarily focusing on Twister and Thunder Wave. From his previous knowledge, he knew that while Twister and Dragon Breath might not seem powerful, they were crucial foundational moves for young dragons, acting as stepping stones to more powerful dragon moves like Dragon Pulse, Outrage, and Draco Meteor. This was because dragon energy was the most turbulent among all types. He had gained this understanding after purchasing the breeding method for Axew and Dratini. For now, he preferred Dratini to focus mainly on Twister, using Dragon Breath occasionally since it consumed too much energy for a young Dratini. Floyd then made his way to where Axew was training and observed Kenraku's Blastoise teaching him a move called Protect. Recollecting the missile incident, Floyd realized that Axew lacked defensive capabilities. While Dragon Dance could deflect normal bullets, it couldn't offer protection against larger threats like grenade launchers or missiles. Thus, Axew needed a genuine defensive move for protection, and Protect seemed the ideal choice. Approaching them, Floyd was noticed, prompting both Pokémon to stop their training. He handed Poke Blocks to Blastoise and Axew. However, compared to what he gave to Gyarados, Blastoise's Poke Block was of a more basic variety. He felt somewhat helpless, sensing an impending breakthrough but still unable to achieve it. Blastoise, I really troubled you with this, I'm truly sorry, Floyd said with a hint of embarrassment. Blastoise, the Pokémon replied, shaking his head as he ate the Poke Block. For Blastoise, Floyd had done so much more, especially since, without him, Blastoise would have never been reunited with his daughter and his partner, Kenraku. Axew, finish your meal, and then we'll head deeper into the forest, Floyd instructed. Axew nodded in agreement. I've created a Patreon account here, and to be honest, I'm not very familiar with it. However, after giving it a try, I found it to be quite user-friendly. On Patreon, I've released advanced chapters ranging from 4 to 13 chapters ahead of the web novel. The number of chapters you gain access to depends on the membership tier you choose. Patreon link, https://www.patreon.com/iceclaw9113. For our regular readers, there's no need to worry. I will continue to release 2 chapters per day, so you're just a few chapters behind. I've already watched many Pokémon movies, such as Hoopa, Jiraiya, Swords of Justice, Reshiram and Zekrom, Arceus, Giratina and Shaman, Dialga, Palkia, Darkrai and Diancie. Therefore, the legendary Pokémon that will appear here later were inspired by those from the movies.
Thanks for listening.